Chapter 2026. She emphasized her words and at the same time, signaled her father to keep quiet. The sect master of the Sky Yuan sect frowned when Qin Tong spoke. When a group of elders stood out to speak for Qin Tong, he was ready to stand out and announce the real deal to the public. However, he did not expect his daughter to stop him. He looked at Bai Suqing with a helpless expression. He roughly knew what she was going to do. This daughter of his. She had always been fierce and she had a clear distinction between love and hate. She was good, she was good. She was not good, she was not good. She liked Luo Qingtong, and the latter had saved her life, restored her cultivation and brought Zhu Yi back to her side. She would definitely stand on that girl's side. As for those who helped Qin Tong and wanted to burn the bridge after crossing the river, his daughter would not let them off. They would regret it. He shook his head as he thought about it. These people were too eager for quick success. When they saw that Luo Qingtong was useless, they wanted to abandon Su Yu and the others. Who knew that the deal between Luo Qingtong and them was not what they had expected. Forget it, let them be taught a lesson. It was also good to let them know that the decisions they had made were not to be easily questioned. The sect master of the Sky Yuan sect did not speak anymore, and he just watched from the side. After Bai Suqing spoke, Qin Tong immediately said, "Of course. Luo Qingtong can't even protect herself now, so the deal is invalid. I believe that everyone has the same thought as me. They are not willing to work for others." "All right." Bai Suqing looked at him and sneered, "In that case the deal has become a favor, right? Luo Qingtong promised us before. She will help us if she wants to, and she will not help us if she doesn't want to, right?" "That's right." Qin Tong agreed and he looked at Bai Suqing with a puzzled expression. Why did she say this? Could it be that Luo Qingtong could run out and continue to fulfill the deal with them? That was impossible. If she were to appear, the people from Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace wouldn't let her off. She couldn't even protect herself, so how could she care about this? As he thought about it, Qin Tong immediately confirmed the idea in his heart. Bai Suqing must be deliberately mystifying them. She wanted them to feel that there was a trap and deliberately retreat. "Do you want to use this method to protect Luo Qingtong?" Qin Tong sneered and agreed without the slightest hesitation. "All right." Bai Suqing looked at him and nodded. Then she turned to the others and said, "Is there anyone on your side who thinks the same as him? Step forward." After everyone who supported Qin Tong stood out, Bai Suqing finally spoke to Su Yu and the others. "All right, the deal between the Sky Yuan sect and your master is invalid. Now you can give the purified celestial jade bones to whoever you want. Those who don't want to trade with you, don't give them a single piece." As soon as Bai Suqing said this, Qin Tong and the people who supported him were stunned. What did you say?" Qin Tong looked at Bai Suqing in disbelief. "What did Bai Suqing just say?" "I said the deal is invalid." Bai Suqing snorted coldly when she saw their disbelief. "Isn't this what you want?" "Oh right, I forgot to tell you. Previously, in order to protect Luo Qingtong, we concealed the fact that the purified celestial jade bones were provided by her. Therefore, in addition to resolving the power of the restricted area for us, Luo Qingtong actually provided us with the purified celestial jade bones in exchange for us to take care of Su Yu and the others and provide them with the celestial jade bones. Of course, you are not willing to provide them with the celestial jade bones." Chapter 2027. Qin Tong and the others almost fainted when they heard what Bai Suqing said. What did she say? The purifying celestial jade bones were provided by Luo Qingtong. The reason why Su Yu and the others stayed in the Sky Yuan sect team was not to take advantage of the Sky Yuan sect as they thought. It was the Grand Supreme Dean who purposely took advantage of the Sky Yuan sect's benefits to do a favor for himself, in exchange for the purifying celestial jade bones. Everyone was shocked. They did not know what kind of stupid thing they had done. The purifying celestial jade bones. In exchange for some celestial jade bones and a chance for Su Yu and the others to stay in the Sky Yuan sect. No matter how they looked at it, this was a good deal. If it were not for the Grand Supreme Dean, Luo Qingtong would not have told the Sky Yuan sect about this, let alone make a deal with them. But now they had forcefully rejected this deal. Everyone was dumbfounded for a while, and they felt as if the world was spinning around them. Qin Tong was even more confused. He thought that he could take advantage of Luo Qingtong's predicament to make a move on Su Yu and the others. Without the protection of the Sky Yuan sect and without enough celestial jade bones, how could they survive in the graveyard of immortals? However, who would have thought that he would be slapped in the face after 3 seconds of complacency? The person who slapped him in the face was none other than Luo Qingtong, who was not even here. Using the purifying celestial jade bones in exchange for a chance for Su Yu and the others to stay in the Sky Yuan sect, as well as a supply of celestial jade bones. Who would dare to say that they were taking advantage of the Sky Yuan sect? This was clearly letting the Sky Yuan sect take advantage of them. Oh my god. Qin Tong was completely dumbfounded. He did not expect things to turn out this way. If he had not created such a mess, he would have been able to enjoy the purifying celestial jade bones as well. Because Luo Qingtong had made a deal with the entire Sky Yuan sect. But now it was all over. He had cut off this opportunity himself. It was he who could not wait and had threatened and forced them to cut off this opportunity. He did not even have the chance to accuse the Grand Supreme Dean and the others of taking revenge on him. Because he was the one who had caused this matter. Not only that, but he had also dragged a group of people down with him. Qin Tong saw the people around him were looking at him. Especially the few elders who were persuaded by him and stood on his side, looking at him with resentful gazes. He instantly rolled his eyes and fainted. There was no other reason than because he had dragged so many people he had been dragged down with him. It was because he had caused the Sky Yuan sect was in the cleansing celestial jade sect? Because the Grand Supreme Dean and the others had it? In the future, Qin Tong's days in the Heavenly Yuan sect would definitely be tough. Not only. After he fainted, Bai Suqing coldly snorted. She looked at Su Yu and the others and said, "Fortunately, your master was considerate and put those purified immortal jade bones on you. We agreed that if you were treated unfairly, the transaction would be cancelled immediately." Qin Tong is a fool. He thought he could deal with you and force you into a desperate situation. But he didn't know that this was all part of that girl's plan. She can't wait for him to cause trouble. She can torture him to death. Bai Suqing also felt very comfortable in her heart. Chapter 2028. Especially those who targeted the Grand Supreme Dean and Luo Qingtong. Now it was finally peaceful. And they didn't have to share the purified immortal jade bones with them. It really made people vent their anger. Especially those who stood on Qin Tong's side. Most of them were on his side, or they didn't get along with her father's opinions. She took the opportunity to deal with them all. And she didn't have to be labeled as someone who eliminated dissidents. Killing two birds with one stone. Her father was soft-hearted, but she wasn't. She would deal with all these people. So that no more trouble would happen during this trip to the Graveyard of Immortals. What happened to Zhu Yi in the Graveyard of Immortals couldn't happen again. The Grand Supreme Dean was dumbfounded as he watched from the side. "You guys?" He raised his finger and pointed at Bai Suqing. Then he turned his head and pointed at Su Yu and the others. Then he lowered his voice and shouted, "Have you all planned this?" To think that he was so angry just now. Didn't these people know to tell him? Not really. Bai Suqing looked at him and said, "Qing Tong was afraid that Qin Tong would cause trouble, so she specifically said that before she left. But we didn't expect that before we could do anything he would seek his own death. She suggested that the deal be cancelled and they didn't fulfill his wish. They felt sorry for themselves. Not only did it save them trouble, but it also made them take the blame. What else could she say when she was full of hatred? That stinky girl, she can't even stop after she left." The Grand Supreme Dean heard this and muttered in his heart. Then he couldn't help but sigh. "Sigh, do you think something will happen to that girl?" "My heart, sigh." As he spoke, he let out a heavy sigh. Bai Suqing, Su Yu and the rest were all silent. No one knew if something would happen to Luo Qingtong. There were dangers everywhere in the Graveyard of Immortals, not to mention the people from Beast Taming Valley and Celestial Palace waiting to deal with Luo Qingtong. And the latter wasn't in the same place as them. Even if they wanted to help, they couldn't. At this moment, Su Xiaoxiao's voice suddenly sounded. "Boss will be fine. She'll be fine," she said firmly, "so we have to work hard to improve our strength. When we find Boss, we can protect her by her side." As soon as her voice rang out, everyone's spirits were lifted. "That's right, that girl is blessed by the heavens. Nothing will happen to her. Let's go. Let's see if we can find her in this fallen immortal land," the Grand Principal said. Su Yu and the others also nodded their heads and said, "That's right. Master's ability is extraordinary. You will definitely be fine." Moreover, there was still Ming Zun outside. When everyone thought of Yi Qianxian, they immediately calmed down. Ming Zun would definitely not let anything happen to Master. They couldn't sense Master's safety, but Ming Zun definitely could. At that time, if something happened to his master, he would definitely cause a huge commotion, even if he had to go against the entire land of the deceased immortals. As they thought of this, everyone's hearts were filled with confidence. They followed the Sky Yuan sect team into the depths of the land of the deceased immortals. They had to work hard to improve their strength. They definitely wouldn't let down the opportunity Luo Qingtong created for them. Chapter 2029. Bang! Luo Qingtong sent a figure flying out of the ground with her sword. Her blood-red eyes had been open ever since she entered the land of the deceased immortals. As soon as she reached this place, she felt that there was a black shadow following her from underground. She purposely paused and the black shadow rushed out from the ground. It was sent flying by Luo Qingtong's sword which she had been ready to attack. Bang! The dark shadow fell heavily to the ground. Luo Qingtong saw that it was a corpse covered in green hair. The corpse's face was stiff and greenish-black, and its skin was like gold and iron. The green hair covered its body like a layer of green armor. What is this? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. She leaped up and nailed the green-haired corpse to the ground with a single blow. The green-haired corpse roared and tried to get up from the ground, but Luo Qingtong accurately smashed its heart. Luo Qingtong wiped the life and death duality sword in her hand. She looked up at the corpse and saw that its clothes were very strange. It didn't look like someone from the hidden world or even someone from the true Spill continent. It's someone from the outer realms. At this moment, Little Pig jumped onto Luo Qingtong's shoulder. It looked at the green-haired corpse on the ground. It's a corpse of a powerhouse from the outer realms who was eroded by the death energy and evil energy in the land of the deceased immortals. Little Pig said with certainty, the opponent's strength should be above the venerable realm. Otherwise, the corpse wouldn't have been able to survive for so long without rotting. Generally, the corpses that died in the land of the deceased immortals would be affected by the aura of the land of the deceased immortals. They would be eroded and become part of the death energy and evil energy in the land of the deceased immortals. The corpse that was controlled by the blood-red immortal Jade Bone was like this. It was seriously rotten. But powerhouses above the venerable realm were different. They had already glimpsed a trace of the essence of the laws. Even after death, the aura around their bodies could prevent their bodies from decaying. Under the corrosion of the aura of the fallen immortal land, it was equivalent to completing the corpse refining process and being directly transformed into Yin corpses. The strength of these Yin corpses was not as strong as the main body. They only had about 1/10 of the main body's strength, but the terrifying thing was that they could instinctively use the martial arts and skills they had when they were alive. Moreover, they had no sense of pain, which made them very difficult to deal with in battle. The green-furred corpse Luo Qingtong encountered was probably around the Saint King realm. However, the strength it could unleash was above that of regular Saint Kings. If it hadn't encountered Luo Qingtong, even a peak Saint Emperor would have died under its sneak attack. And as the number of people the Yin corpse killed increased, its strength would also continue to increase. In the end, it would turn around and become even more powerful than the original body when it was alive. It was not impossible. After hearing Little Pig's words, Luo Qingtong immediately understood what was going on with this corpse. At first, she thought it was the same as the blood-red corpse that was controlled by the blood-red immortal Jade Bone. She was still vigilantly waiting for the blood-red shadow to pounce out. Unexpectedly, it wasn't like that. This green-furred corpse was a different kind of existence. However, there were really many strange things in the land of the deceased immortals. Chapter 2030. However, this harvest was also real. Luo Qingtong looked at the treasures she got from the green-haired corpse and raised her eyebrows. These foreign experts were powerful, so they naturally had a lot of good things on them. Although many things had been corroded by the aura of the graveyard of immortals and the passage of time, many things had been damaged. However, there were still some things left. Luo Qingtong put away the treasures that were damaged in different ways. These things were all treasures above the venerable realm. Even if they were damaged, they were still more powerful than ordinary Sage Realm treasures. Luo Qingtong was going to take all these treasures back and give them to Su Yu and Master Luo. If these treasures could be repaired and restored to their original power, it would be even better. However, this was a matter for the future. Luo Qingtong did not think about it for the time being. After putting away these treasures, she looked at the green-haired corpse again. The other party was turned into a Yin corpse in the graveyard of immortals. What if the corpse puppet was originally a Yin corpse? Under the aura of the graveyard of immortals, could it be greatly improved? Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong released the corpse puppet of the Great Yong Saint in her hands. This corpse puppet of the Great Yong Saint was refined into a corpse by Feng Wan's blood. It was very fierce and violent. Luo Qingtong did not dare to release it casually, in case it was not under her control and brought disaster to the world. However, with the improvement of her strength, this corpse puppet was useless, so it had been kept in the 9-story exquisite pagoda. Now she could use the aura of the graveyard of immortals to continue refining and improving it. After all, it was very difficult to find such a place full of death aura and evil aura. Not to mention, the death aura and evil aura contained in this place were very strong. They were all transformed from the essence of the foreign experts after they died. It was very beneficial for the corpse puppet to refine corpses. Swish. Luo Qingtong released the corpse puppet of the great young saint. After the latter came out, he immediately sensed the dense death qi and evil qi in the land of the fallen immortals. He immediately roared excitedly. Then, it instinctively pounced on the green-haired corpse in front of Luo Qingtong and sucked away all the energy in its body. Then Luo Qingtong saw its strength increase rapidly. It reached the peak of the Holy General Realm and was close to the Holy Marquis Realm. All right. Luo Qingtong's eyes lit up. Sure enough, the corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint could easily grow in this environment. Just like that, he rose to the level of a Holy General. Once it killed a few more powerful corpses, its strength would continue to increase. At that thought, Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. With this corpse puppet of a great young saint, he would have a powerful helper in this graveyard of immortals. This corpse puppet could play a huge role, and it was not something an ordinary cultivator could compare to. Luo Qingtong let the corpse puppet of the great young saint leave by itself to hunt corpses nearby. Then she went into the hole made by the green-haired corpse. Below the hole was a huge underground lair. The green-haired corpse usually hid below, waiting for an opportunity to attack passing practitioners. When Luo Qingtong found it, she had already seen this huge lair. Chapter 2031. Thinking about it, this was quite normal. That green-furred corpse was a zombie-like existence. It couldn't poop or piss and it didn't need to eat. Hunting cultivators were usually finished off on the surface. Therefore, it wasn't surprising that this underground lair was so clean. After wandering around and discovering that there were no hidden dangers, Luo Qingtong prepared to enter seclusion to cultivate and refine the blood immortal jade bone in her hand. You stay here and guard it. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she sealed the hole above her head. With the corpse puppet of the great young sage above and below, Luo Qingtong felt that she could cultivate in peace. For a short period of time, there shouldn't be anything that could disturb her. Okay. Little Pig nodded seriously, which was rare for him. It was very dangerous for Luo Qingtong to increase her strength in the land of the deceased immortals. Little Pig naturally had to protect her well. After all, Luo Qingtong's increase in strength was also very beneficial to him. His seal would be lifted in the future, and he would have to depend on Luo Qingtong. He had had enough of this pink little pig's body. Also, take care of the corpse puppet of the great young sage outside. Don't let it be killed by others. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she gave half of the connection to the corpse puppet of the great young sage to Little Pig. Little Pig was connected to her mind, so he easily took over the control. Okay, I got it. You can refine that immortal jade bone. Little Pig said to Luo Qingtong. His little pink hoof stepped on Luo Qingtong's body, then he said to her, "Oh right, you should also release that little golden mouse. That fellow is an expert at searching for treasures. It's rare to come to the land of the deceased immortals. If you don't take advantage of the treasures here, are you waiting for others to benefit?" As he spoke, he looked at Luo Qingtong smugly and said, "Let it go up there with that corpse puppet. If it has nothing to do, it can kill corpses and search for treasures. Don't waste it." Luo Qingtong also thought that this was reasonable, and she immediately released the little golden mouse. As soon as the gold-seeking hamster came out, it hugged her hair and rubbed against her cheek. Creak creak. Big treasure, big treasure. That's enough. Bring back the other treasures first, then you can freeload. As Little Pig spoke, he immediately used his little hoof to pick up the little gold mouse. The latter squeaked and protested resolutely. It was rare for it to come out, but it was not allowed to carry the big baby. "When you bring back those treasures from outside, I'll let you hug me as much as you want." Little Pig slyly said, "A treasure in exchange for a hug." Creak creak. "No, at least twice." The little golden mouse waved its little claws and bargained with it. Luo Qingtong watched their interaction and her lips twitched. This guy actually used her to sell her body. However, the little gold mouse obviously liked this. After she bargained with Little Pig for a while, they reached an agreement. A treasure in exchange for 2 hugs, and she could come out to play when she had nothing to do. In an instant, the little gold mouse happily dug a hole and ran out of the ground. It wanted to unleash its primordial power and create a precious land for its precious treasure. Chapter 2032. That's right, I want to split the treasures 20 to 80. Master, you don't have the heart to take advantage of a pitiful little girl like me, right? It looked at Luo Qingtong with its teary eyes. It hurts my eyes. Luo Qingtong turned its face to the side. Also, I won't tell Qianren about this. Take your 20% as hush money. She wanted to sell her body and get a share of her loot. How could there be such a good thing? What? Little Pig was dumbfounded. Master, you can't do this. It looked like it wanted to cry but had no tears. Really? Luo Qingtong looked at it leisurely. So you chose to let Qianren know? Little Pig was completely terrified. Forget about that king of jealousy. Little Pig recalled the countless tragic experiences he had gone through. Although treasures were precious, his life was even more valuable. It had better behave. Little Pig shrank to the side while whimpering. Luo Qingtong, on the other hand, was focused on improving her strength. She held the crimson immortal jade bone in her hand and began to absorb and refine the power within it. While Luo Qingtong was improving her strength in the Broken Star Valley. On the other hand, the people from Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace escaped from the depths of the abyss in a sorry state. Their robes were tattered and tattered. Their robes were torn to shreds. It was unknown what kind of ferocious beast had scratched it. Many of them had deep wounds on their bodies. Some of them were so bloody that their internal organs and bones could be seen. When the people of Beast Taming Valley and Celestial Palace ran out from the depths of the Broken Star Valley, beams of invisible light mixed with strong winds swept out from behind them. Then the people running at the back suddenly screamed shrilly. Their voices were sharp and high-pitched, and they were filled with a deep sense of fear. A disciple of the Beast Taming Valley was torn to shreds by an invisible claw in front of everyone. The other Celestial Palace disciple's eyes suddenly bulged out. His face was hideous and terrified to the extreme. Then he reached out and scratched himself with a miserable expression, until his whole body was torn to pieces. In the end, he let out a bestial roar and charged towards the disciples of Beast Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace not far from him. He opened his mouth and bit at them. Ah! The person who had been pushed down by him screamed in a shrill voice. No matter how he attacked, the other party remained firmly on top of him and did not move an inch. The other party bit viciously at him, causing large chunks of flesh and blood to fly. By the time the Celestial Palace disciple on top of him was killed by the other person under him would not be able to survive. A large group of people from Beast Taming Valley and Celestial Palace screamed in a shrill voice. Beast Taming King Guguju and the Celestial Palace Master were the first to rush out. Their faces were unsightly. Especially the Celestial Palace Master. He had promised Beast Taming King Guguju to come and get something for them, but he did not expect it to be so dangerous inside. How was this asking them to come and help? This was clearly asking them to die. Chapter 2033. He had almost died in there. As for the beast tamer King Guguju, there was no need to even mention him. This time he proposed to cooperate with the master of the Celestial Palace. He thought that it would be easy for him to enter the palace and take out the fifth beast taming incantation. Who would have thought that there would be such a thing in the depths of the cave? Furthermore, it was overwhelming. Almost all of them had been left behind in there. He looked at the last few people in the Broken Star Valley with an ugly face, dying miserably in front of him. Every corpse had either been bitten beyond recognition or had their stomachs ripped open. No one knew what had viciously scratched them to death. Then these corpses stood up shakily in front of them. They dragged their broken limbs and intestines, which were almost all over the ground, and slowly walked inside. The people from Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace felt their blood run cold. One had to know that the immortal jade bones in their bodies were still intact. It was impossible for them to be corroded to this extent by the aura of the fallen immortal land. It was done by those things inside. That frightening thing. Beast Tamer King Guguju, I'm afraid that the people of Celestial Palace won't be able to help you. Goodbye. The owner of Celestial Palace looked at those corpses staggering into the depths of Broken Stars Valley with a horrified look. He then turned around and was about to leave with his subordinates. Hold on. The Beast Tamer King Guguju looked at him and coldly shouted, Master of the Celestial Palace, if you want to help someone, help them to the end. Since your people from the Celestial Palace have already agreed to help us, and you've already paid such a huge price to enter, wouldn't it be a pity to give up now? We, the Beast Taming King's Valley, are willing to promise that if you help us obtain that item, we, the Beast Taming King's Valley, will help you people from the Celestial Palace form contracts with demonic beasts in the future. I'll give you a fixed quota every year. How about that? Beast Tamer King Guguju. The master of Celestial Palace looked furious. This isn't a matter of promises. Those things are in there. With just us alone, it's impossible for us to shake them. How can we help you obtain the things inside? The Celestial Palace Master was also moved by Guguju's promise. With the help of the Beast Taming King Valley, only a few dozen people would be able to form contracts with demonic beasts. For the people of Celestial Palace, how much of a boost would that be? However, no matter how great the increase in strength was, the people of Celestial Palace had to be alive to take it. Those terrible things in there. If the people of Celestial Palace wanted to help the people of Beast Taming King's Valley obtain the items inside, they didn't know what kind of price they would have to pay. Even if all of them were to fill in, it might not be possible. Under such circumstances, even if the Beast Taming King's Valley were to offer them a huge reward, he wouldn't dare to accept it. Seeing that the people of Celestial Palace were about to retreat, the Beast Tamer King Guguju gritted his teeth. We, the Beast Taming King's Valley, will gather people from all over to help. When the time comes, the other sects will act together. The pressure on us will be a lot less. Let them restrain those things outside and we'll go inside to get those things. If we're fast enough, we should be able to do it. Hearing his words, the master of Celestial Palace suddenly stopped in his tracks. Chapter 2034. What the other party said couldn't be what he was thinking, could it? Before he could finish his words, Beast Tamer King Guguju had already seen through his thoughts. He nodded and said, "That's exactly what you're thinking. We'll use people from other sects as cannon fodder to attract the attention of those things. We'll take the opportunity to rush to the innermost area." Beast Tamer King Guguju's face was grim. It was basically impossible for sects above the third class to come and help them. Because those people were busy improving their strength and looking for opportunities in the land of the deceased immortals. However, it was possible for third class and below sects to come. Because they might not be able to gain much in the land of the deceased immortals. If they could build a relationship with those sects, they would be happy to come and help them. At that time, they would use those people to attract the attention of those terrible things. As long as there were enough people, they would definitely be able to reduce the number of those things. At that time they could take the opportunity to break through. Beast Tamer King Guguju was determined to get the fifth part of the Beast Tamer incantation from the Shattered Star Valley. He didn't know why, but ever since he knew that the Holy Book was spied on and the location of the Shattered Star Valley was known to Luo Qingtong, he was always frightened. He was afraid that Luo Qingtong would do something that would ruin their plan to get the fifth part of the Beast Tamer incantation. Therefore he was not going to wait any longer. Anyway, Luo Qingtong already knew the location of the Shattered Star Valley. She could reveal it to the public at any time. In that case, what was the point of hiding it? The most important thing was to gather everyone and take out the things inside. Thinking of this, he immediately said to the Master of Celestial Palace, "In this way, the losses on both sides will be minimized. You people from Celestial Palace only need to help us at the last moment. What do you think?" Beast Tamer King Guguju's words made the Master of Celestial Palace feel a rush of excitement. If that was the case, it was indeed a rare opportunity for the Celestial Palace. As he thought about it, he immediately nodded and said, "Yes, if there are enough people, we of Celestial Palace can continue to help you." As long as the people of Celestial Palace were not sacrificed, it did not matter to them how many people died. Moreover, those people who entered the land of the fallen immortals should have been prepared to die. It didn't matter if he was killed or used to death. All right. Beast Tamer King Guguju nodded and immediately ordered his men to make arrangements. Beside him, Eldarin and the others did not say anything. The Beast Taming King Guguju was right, the fifth beast taming law must be taken out. As for the location of the Broken Star Valley, it didn't matter if it was exposed. Anyway, when Luo Qingtong pried the Holy Book, the location of the Broken Star Valley was no longer a secret. As long as he could get the incantation, everything would be worth it. While the people of Beast Tamer Valley were spreading the news of the Broken Star Valley, waiting for other people to come to the land of the fallen immortals, in the underground cave where Luo Qingtong was. Bang! At the place where the young girl was sitting, an extremely tyrannical burst of energy suddenly erupted from the place where the girl was sitting. In an instant, the walls of the cave around her made a series of puff, puff, puff sounds. Countless small holes appeared in the walls. The powerful energy poured into the holes was extremely sharp, and no one knew how many meters it extended into the walls. The soil above Luo Qingtong's head was completely penetrated. Chapter 2035. Bang! A shattering sound suddenly erupted from within her body. Then, as if something was being generated from within her body, a powerful and frightening power suddenly erupted from within her body. Bang! The entire underground lair shook violently from the explosion in Luo Qingtong's body. A tyrannical force that was completely different from the Saint King realm suddenly shone brightly from within Luo Qingtong's body like a scorching sun. Saint Emperor realm. Feeling the new force in her body, Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. Finally she took another step forward. She was a little closer to that man. Her eyes shone brightly and shone brightly. In this enclosed dark space, her eyes were extremely bright and dazzling. Beside her, Little Pig also hopped up to her. Hey hey hey. Master, you've broken through. It looked happily at the fierce aura emanating from Luo Qingtong's body. Because she had just broken through, Luo Qingtong's aura had not been completely restrained. That exposed sharpness was as sharp as a sword. In this enclosed underground lair, it cut in all directions. Yes. Luo Qingtong looked at it and nodded. Then she asked, how long did I break through? Although in her heart, she estimated that it would not take too long this time. After all, the power in this blood-colored celestial jade bone was extraordinarily pure, and the power of blood qi was also very strong. It was enough for Luo Qingtong to raise her strength level in a short period of time without needing to replenish her energy to fill the gap in her cultivation level. However, Luo Qingtong still asked to avoid missing too much time in the land of the deceased immortals. One had to know that the aura in the forbidden area would weaken enough for people to enter in at most 7 days. 4 days. Little Pig said. It also knew that Luo Qingtong was worried, so it took note of the time. Okay. Luo Qingtong nodded. Then she said to Little Pig, continue to guard here. I'll go see Qian Ren. Thinking of the man who could not enter from outside, Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. Her mental strength entered the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring on her left ring finger. Because of the unique aura in the land of the deceased immortals, Yi Qianxian's soul could not appear by her side through the connection between the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring and the 10-sided dragon ring. After all, that man's soul was a great supplement to the aura of death in the land of the deceased immortals. Who knew how many evil beings would covet it? The entire land of the deceased immortals, the entire land of the deceased immortals. However, even if Yi Qianren couldn't come in, it didn't mean that Luo Qingtong couldn't go out to see him. Luo Qingtong's lips curled up and she closed her eyes. Her mental strength followed the connection of the 9 Phoenix ring on her left ring finger and extended to the 10-directional dragon ring. Whoosh! Outside the land of the deceased immortals, Yi Qianxian stood on top of a mountain with his hands behind his back. He looked at the scene in front of him. At this moment, the 10-sided dragon ring on his left ring finger suddenly moved. Soon after, a small figure rushed out from within. Qian Ren. Luo Qingtong's little face was smiling. She was both charming and cute. She looked at the man's face close to her and pounced on him. It's been so many days. Did you miss me? Chapter 2036. That small and soft hand was not even as big as Yi Qianxian's lips. The latter seemed to have sensed something when the Shifang dragon ring moved. When Luo Qingtong pounced on him, he had already removed the protection around his body. He even waved his sleeves to support Luo Qingtong so that she would not fall from his body. Why did you suddenly come out? Yi Qianxian looked at the small person in front of him. The soft and real touch on his lips put him in a very good mood. Luo Qingtong's 9 Nether Phoenix ring and his Shifang dragon ring were connected. Even if Luo Qingtong was only a soul, the feeling of kissing was the same as a real kiss. Even when he touched the girl, he could feel the same warmth and softness. It was just that Luo Qingtong's figure was too small. Yi Qianxian looked at Luo Qingtong's small body and his eyes darkened. After kissing her back, he immediately wrapped her in his palm and asked her in a hoarse voice. Did she miss him? Yi Qianxian thought that Luo Qingtong might have specially come out of the land of the deceased immortals to see him because she missed him. He was very happy. Luo Qingtong did not let him down. She smiled and said, of course it's because I miss you. Luo Qingtong had never been a pretentious person. Since she was already with Yi Qianxian, she naturally would not be stingy to let him know her feelings for him. At that moment, she openly told him how much she missed Yi Qianren. When Yi Qianxian heard this, the corners of his lips curled up. The depth of his eyes, as well as the coldness and sharpness of his blade, were all retracted. Looking at the little girl sitting in his palm, his gaze was indescribably gentle and soft, carrying a doting and protective care that could drown a person to death. This sovereign also misses you very much. It was rare for Yi Qianren's ears to turn slightly red when she said this. He rarely made public the love in his heart. His love for Luo Qingtong had always been silent and restrained. He did more than he said. He could violate many of his principles and pride for Luo Qingtong. But the words of love he said to Luo Qingtong could be said with one hand. His innate pride and nobility made it difficult for him to say anything pleasant and humble in front of Luo Qingtong. But in the process of getting along with the girl, he almost instinctively lowered his status to cater to her and let her be unbridled. All of his pride and principles, all of his persistence and arrogance, they were all broken for her. Haha. When Yi Qianxian spoke, Luo Qingtong's eyes lit up with a smile. She liked the way Yi Qianxian doted on her. It made her feel like she was placed in the palm of his hand, loved and tolerated at all costs. This feeling was very fascinating. If it was said that Luo Qingtong's initial desire for Yi Qianren was due to her yearning for the power in this world, she instinctively wanted to take this man for herself. However, she was afraid that he would not be under her control, so she purposely stayed away from him. But now Luo Qingtong had truly fallen in love with Yi Qianxian. Apart from grandfather Luo, this man was the most tolerant and doting person in the world for her. But grandfather Luo's kindness was mostly because of the original owner. Chapter 2037. He fell in love with her because she was Luo Qi. She was herself. That was why he chose to be with her. From the beginning to the end, Yi Qianxian only saw her, the supreme ocular sorcerer from the 24th century. Luo Qingtong thought about it and kissed Yi Qianxian on the cheek. Then she said with a smile, "My strength has broken through to the Holy Emperor realm." She briefly explained what happened in the land of the deceased immortals. Then she said, "I have the corpse puppet of the great Yong sage following me. You don't have to worry. His strength is increasing very quickly. It shouldn't take long for it to become stronger than me." Yi Qianxian nodded. He supported the girl's mini form with one hand so that she could lean on his cheek. His face was expressionless and he didn't say anything. He could pick up Luo Qingtong at any time. But if he did so, the land of the deceased immortals would collapse and disappear because of his interference. Therefore he wouldn't do it unless he had no other choice. He also wouldn't interfere with Luo Qingtong's training in the land of the deceased immortals. The girl didn't want to stay under his wing. She wanted to become stronger and stand shoulder to shoulder with him. This was one of the processes she had to go through. Yi Qianxian respected her pride and thoughts. Moreover, his young lady was supposed to be someone who stood in the sky with him. The domineering aura on her body had never been inferior to his. Once the young phoenix rose with the wind, it would soar for 90,000 miles. He was waiting for the treasure in his hand. The day when the young phoenix cried and the world shook. "I'll wait for you," he said to Luo Qingtong. "I'll wait for your return." Of course. Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. The two leaned against each other and talked a lot. Most of the time it was Luo Qingtong talking and Yi Qianxian listening. The two of them waited quietly. Under the setting sun, Yi Qianxian's figure drew an extremely long and narrow shadow on the mountain peak. Luo Qingtong's small figure stood on his shoulder, supported by one of his hands. She leaned against his cheek, talking and laughing. Time passed slowly and peacefully. Bei Qing, Fengyu, and the others watched from afar and did not come to disturb them. After Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian chatted for a while, her heart suddenly skipped a beat. Someone had touched her body. Luo Qingtong's body was in an underground lair in the land of the deceased immortals. The protective measures were excellent, so no one should be able to touch her body. The only possibility was Little Pig. Was it calling her back? Luo Qingtong's mind raced. After saying goodbye to Yi Qianxian, her figure disappeared. Swoosh. In the underground lair in the land of the deceased immortals, Luo Qingtong's consciousness returned. Her eyes suddenly opened. What's going on? She looked at Little Pig beside her. The latter was lying on her body, poking her with its little hooves. The movements that Luo Qingtong sensed just now were all caused by Little Pig. It's that corpse puppet and the little golden mouse. Something happened. Seeing that Luo Qingtong had woken up, Little Pig immediately jumped out of her body. I sensed something wrong outside. They seem to have been kidnapped. Chapter 2038. And the little golden mouse on his body was also intercepted by someone. It wanted to go out and take a look, but wasn't Luo Qingtong still asleep? It was afraid that something would happen to Luo Qingtong after it left, so it could only wake her up. Anyway, she wanted to talk to that man, and there would be plenty of opportunities after they went out. It was about time to meet him. Hearing this, Luo Qingtong's eyes suddenly narrowed. Let's go out and take a look. As she spoke, she directly hugged the little pig and rushed out of the ground. Bang! Somewhere not far from where Luo Qingtong was in seclusion, a group of people were holding weapons and besieging the corpse puppet of the great young saint. Ah! I didn't expect our luck to be so good to encounter such a Yin corpse with treasures hanging all over its body. Yeah. There are too many treasures on this Yin corpse. This group of people looked at the treasures hanging on the corpse puppet of the great young saint with a covetous expression. The little golden mouse was really awesome. With the corpse puppet of the great young saint, it had almost cleared out all the Yin corpses in the surrounding dozens of miles. Because it specifically picked the Yin corpses with treasures, and most of those Yin corpses were relatively strong, the corpse puppet of the great young saint was also very messy after a series of battles. From the clothes on its body, it was impossible to tell that it was a person from the true Spill continent. Of course, even if they could tell, these people probably wouldn't care. Because their gazes were all attracted by the dazzling array of treasures on the corpse puppet. With so many treasures, even those people from first-class sects might not be able to obtain them in the land of the fallen immortals if they didn't have a certain amount of luck. Everyone was drooling with desire, and they immediately attacked the corpse puppet of the great young saint with even more strength. Bang bang bang. Their attacks heavily bombarded the corpse puppet of the great young saint, splashing sparks and energy in all directions. The corpse puppet of the great young saint had already raised its strength to the level of a saint king during this period of killing Yin corpses. It was a corpse puppet refined from a corpse, so it was like a fish in water in the land of the fallen immortals. Moreover, because they were refined into corpses by living relatives, they were even more powerful than ordinary corpse puppets and Yin corpses. Even the Yin corpses in the land of the fallen immortals were no match for it unless they were particularly powerful. They could only be suppressed by the ferocious aura emanating from its body. Now that these people's attacks landed on his body, he immediately roared in anger. Brr. He roared furiously like a wild beast with a tearing sound of metal. Then he suddenly pounced on these people. The little gold mouse popped its head out from his bosom and looked at the crowd that was attacking them with all their might. It squeaked, and its voice was filled with anger. These guys were too evil. It had specially found these things to exchange for hugs for its big baby. These bad guys actually wanted to snatch them away. How could this be? Big Rock beat them up. That's right, the little gold mouse called the corpse puppet Big Rock, who told him to be as hard as a rock and so powerful. The little gold mouse's voice mixed with the roar of the corpse puppet resounded in the sky. Chapter 2039. Ah! I didn't expect this corpse puppet to have a gold-seeking mouse. This is a very rare treasure. The gold-seeking mouse's function was to search for treasures everywhere. With them, almost no treasure would be missed. This kind of demonic beast was extremely rare in the hidden world. When the people of Celestial Palace obtained it before, they were very careful. They didn't dare to publicize it. Even after Elder Xie and the others were killed, they didn't dare to announce to the world that they were looking for the gold-seeking mouse. First, the news of the treasure map couldn't be exposed. Second, this gold-seeking mouse was precious enough that they didn't dare to publicize it. They thought that after finding the murderer, they would take back the gold-seeking mouse and the treasure map. However, who would have thought that the one who killed Elder Xie and the others would be Luo Qingtong, a girl that they had never put in their eyes and never doubted. Not to mention Luo Qingtong, even the people of True Spill Continent and the people of Celestial Palace had never doubted it. They only thought that the people of the Hidden World and True Spill Continent killed Elder Xie, but they didn't know that they were chasing in the wrong direction. In the end, they completely missed the opportunity and didn't find Luo Qingtong at all. After that, they didn't have any more chances. The people besieging the corpse puppet looked at the little golden mouse with surprise. They thought that they had struck it rich. With the little golden mouse, their future gains in the land of the deceased immortals would reach a whole new level. Not only that, but in the hidden world they wouldn't have to worry about finding treasures to use. However, they didn't think that this little golden mouse would appear here, and that the corpse puppet had so many treasures on it. Obviously, it wasn't a coincidence, but it was raised by someone. But everyone had been dazzled by the dazzling treasures and didn't think of this at all. Even if some people suspected it, who would have thought that the Yin corpse in the fallen immortal land would be controlled by someone? No one thought in this direction at all. Even if some people were suspicious, they only felt that it was a little strange and thought that their opportunity had come. That was why they encountered such a strange thing. Everyone worked even harder to attack the corpse puppet. Almost all of them were at the Saint King realm, and a few of them were even at the Saint Emperor realm. Their combined might was astonishing. Even though this great young saint's corpse puppet possessed astonishing strength, comparable to a peak sage emperor, and was like a fish in water in the graveyard of immortals, receiving the support of the aura of the graveyard of immortals, it was still forced back by their attacks. His skin, which was as hard as iron, was also cut open by their attacks. Creak, creak, creak. Seeing this scene, the little gold mouse instantly cried out anxiously. Big Stone, you have to hold on. If you can't hold on, these treasures, along with me, will be snatched away by these people. That won't do. Big baby, come quickly. Someone stole our treasures. The little gold mouse cried out anxiously. It wanted to slip off the corpse puppet's body and leave to find Luo Qingtong and Little Pig. However, those people had been keeping an eye on it for a long time. How could they let it leave? As soon as it made a move, someone would target it and force it back. Chapter 2040. Bang! Seeing those people besieging the corpse puppet and forcing it to retreat repeatedly, countless wounds appeared all over its body. Luo Qingtong's gaze was slightly cold. She raised her hand and blasted an attack forward. Boom! The attack landed in front of the corpse puppet of the great young saint. Together with the corpse puppet's attack, it blocked the attacks of those besieging it. With the help of this attack, the corpse puppet of the great young saint suddenly broke free from the besiegement of those people. It roared angrily and fled into the distance. It was Luo Qingtong who had ordered it to leave, lest it be besieged and killed here, wasting her efforts for nothing. The corpse puppet of the great young saint obeyed the order and quickly disappeared before everyone's eyes. It rushed to the underground lair where Luo Qingtong had previously secluded herself to recuperate. Seeing the corpse puppet of the great young saint leave, those besieging the corpse puppet were instantly enraged. They looked at Luo Qingtong and shouted angrily, "Scoundrel, who are you? You actually dare to let our prey go?" These people had long regarded the corpse puppet of the great young saint as theirs. Now that it had escaped, how could they not be angry? Especially since this corpse puppet was released by Luo Qingtong. Thinking that the other party had just openly attacked them, hindered their movements, and let the corpse puppet escape, the crowd was furious and immediately attacked Luo Qingtong. "You don't need to care who I am. The important thing is that what you touched is mine." Luo Qingtong's gaze was cold as she looked at the crowd in front of her. At her feet stood the little golden mouse that had just come down from the corpse puppet of the great young saint. The latter stood by her feet and complained to her with a series of gestures. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The little golden mouse was furious. It angrily told Luo Qingtong that it and Big Stone were walking peacefully on the road when these people suddenly rushed out and attacked them. Big Stone wanted to leave, but these people didn't let him and wanted to snatch the treasures on them. Big treasures, big treasures. You have to uphold justice for us. Big Stone was beaten so badly by them. These people were simply taking advantage of their power to bully the corpse. No, there was also the mouse. Those were treasures that it had obtained with great difficulty. How hard it was. When the little golden mouse said that it was wronged, it jumped onto Luo Qingtong's foot and hugged her calf. Luo Qingtong looked at its gestures and narrowed her eyes. The little pig in her bosom had already translated the little gold mouse's words for her to hear. These people had coveted the treasures on her corpse puppet, so they wanted to rob and kill her so that they could take those treasures for themselves, together with this little golden mouse. Luo Qingtong let the little golden mouse climb onto her shoulder and then looked up at these people. The latter and the others didn't expect to get such an answer. That corpse puppet, its treasures, and this little golden mouse actually all belonged to this young girl in front of them? How could she control the corpses in the land of the deceased immortals? The crowd was thinking in bewilderment. Suddenly, a martial artist raised his hand and pointed at Luo Qingtong, shouting, "I know who she is. It's her. Luo Qingtong, that night I." Following this martial artist's words, everyone's expression became even more surprised. Chapter 2041. Luo Qingtong. Night I. None of the people present were unfamiliar with these two names. Previously in the hidden world, the matter between Celestial Palace and Beast-Taming King Valley had caused a great uproar. Even the people from the Star Alliance Palace were involved. Everyone had heard enough gossip and naturally knew what glorious deeds Luo Qingtong, who was also known as Night Eye, had done in these two families. Not to mention, at the entrance of the land of the deceased immortals, Luo Qingtong had personally admitted that she was the one who had dealt with the people from Beast-Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace. The conflict between Celestial Palace and Beast-Taming King Valley was completely orchestrated by her. Not only that, but she also had the treasure map that the first-class sects and even the Star Alliance Palace coveted. Thinking of the various benefits that this treasure map could bring, and then thinking of the treasures on the corpse puppet that Luo Qingtong had released, everyone looked at Luo Qingtong with surprise and greed. This girl had too many good things on her. Previously, they had some doubts and felt that it was impossible for anyone to control the Yin corpses in the land of the deceased immortals. However, after hearing about Luo Qingtong's identity, they could no longer doubt her words. After all, she had the treasure map of the land of the deceased immortals. What was the big deal about being able to control the Yin corpses in the land of the deceased immortals? However, watching so many treasures disappear in front of their eyes, the crowd felt somewhat unreconciled. Not to mention that Luo Qingtong had even greater benefits. One had to know that although they might not have enough strength to get their hands on the treasure map, they could use it to trade with others. Presumably, those first-class sects would be very willing to use all kinds of promises and benefits in exchange for the treasure map in their hands. Not to mention the people from Beast-Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace had been looking for Luo Qingtong all this time. If they could capture the girl and hand her over to the people from Beast-Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace, in addition to the treasure map, they didn't know how many benefits they would get. Perhaps they could also get a share of the good things in the forbidden area. Thinking of this, the crowd's gaze towards Luo Qingtong changed. They looked at each other, then slowly spread out and surrounded Luo Qingtong. Ridiculous. At this moment, an expert at the peak of the Sage Emperor stage sneered at Luo Qingtong and said as he looked at Luo Qingtong, "Luo Qingtong, I think you saw that we were about to get a good thing, so you deliberately came to cause trouble." The group of people pretended not to see the little golden mouse on Luo Qingtong's body being intimate with her, and said blindly and coldly, "You let go of our prey, so now use yourself to take the blame." They looked greedily at Luo Qingtong, thinking of the benefits they could get after capturing her, and immediately sneered. "Luo Qingtong, hand over the treasure map and the little golden mouse on your body, and call back the Yin corpse and we'll spare your life." Another Sage Emperor stage expert looked at Luo Qingtong and said. His expression was sinister. They would naturally spare Luo Qingtong's life, but they didn't know if the people from Beast-Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace would spare her life. Chapter 2042. So, you want to snatch it by force? Luo Qingtong's gaze swept across the group of people who were surrounding her. She raised her eyes slightly, and the smile on her lips was cold. These people coveted the treasures on her corpse puppet. She hadn't even made a move against them, but they couldn't wait to make a move against her? They wanted everything on her and they weren't even going to let her off? Using herself as a bargaining chip? Sure. But they couldn't afford to pay that price. What do you mean by snatching? We just want to recoup our losses. The group of people said shamelessly. You let go of the prey that we deserve, so you naturally have to pay the price. And the price was Luo Qingtong herself. All right. Luo Qingtong looked at them and the smile on her lips grew colder. She stood there, her red robes fluttering in the wind. She was alluring and domineering. Her beautiful face was filled with an evil and seductive aura. Since that's the case, come and get it yourselves. As she spoke, Luo Qingtong stretched out her right hand, and the life and death duality sword appeared in her hand. She suddenly grasped it. With a whoosh, a sword light suddenly slashed out from her hand. She had just advanced to the Holy Emperor realm, and this was a good opportunity to see how much her strength had increased. Bang! When Luo Qingtong's sword light slashed out, the people surrounding her also attacked. Everyone be careful. Don't kill her. Otherwise, we won't be able to get the location of the treasure map. That's right. Everyone be careful. We still have to hand this person over to the Beast-Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace. With their hatred for her, they'll definitely pay a huge price to exchange it with us. Apart from that, there will be many other benefits. Let's not be careless and lose it. The group looked at Luo Qingtong as if they were looking at a mountain of gold. As for the girl's attack, they didn't even take it seriously. She was just an early-stage Holy Emperor. Although the girl's speed of improvement was monstrous, and she had advanced to the Holy Emperor realm in such a short time. But there was more than one Holy Emperor realm expert among them. Not to mention that these Holy King realm experts weren't weak. Under the encirclement, Luo Qingtong was just an early-stage Holy Emperor. Even a peak Saint Emperor or an expert who had just entered the Saint Emperor realm wouldn't be able to escape their encirclement with ease. However, just as they were thinking about it, countless flaming auras flew out from Luo Qingtong's attack with a whoosh. This was the soul seal power of the soul of 10,000 flames that Luo Qingtong had comprehended. She's the holy strength and hers is and it's her to attack. S's. Under these circumstances, Luo Qingtong's ordinary attacks were enough to crush regular Saint Kings. The sword light in her hand directly collided with the attacks of those people. In an instant, countless flames flew out and cancelled out the attacks of those people. The attacks of those holy Emperor Realm experts were completely shattered. Boom, boom, boom. Luo Qingtong's attack went straight in. The sword light was like a dragon, and it instantly slashed at those who were attacking her. Chapter 2043. What? None of them had expected their attacks to be split apart so easily. They had already retracted their attacks and were waiting confidently to capture Luo Qingtong. However, who would have thought that the situation would be completely different from what they had expected? Luo Qingtong's attack had directly shattered their attacks. The attacks of a group of people were actually unable to do anything to the Saint Emperor Realm girl in front of them. Not only that, the splattering flames and sword light had also slashed their bodies. In just an instant, more than half of the people who had rushed to the front were killed by Luo Qingtong's sword light. As for the people behind him, they were also heavily injured by this sword attack. What's going on? Everyone was astonished. Luo Qingtong was only a Saint Emperor Realm expert. Moreover, she had just entered the Saint Emperor Realm. How could she be so powerful? Even with so many of them attacking together, they still couldn't do anything to her? Moreover, there were even a few Saint Emperor Realm experts amongst them. No matter how they looked at it, the one who should be crushed should be Luo Qingtong. While everyone was shocked, Luo Qingtong had already leaped up again. She did not intend to give these people any time to react. At this moment, a sword light slashed down again. Annihilation. The extremely violent sword light seemed to carry an endless amount of light as it swept past in front of him. Everywhere it passed, the fog in the land of the deceased immortals trembled violently. At this moment, countless auras and forces were constantly being destroyed and transformed by the power of Luo Qingtong's sword light, strengthening her attack. Bang! The end of the sword light cut the ground with a loud bang. Almost in an instant, it had cut a deep gully in the ground. Then, it slammed heavily towards the people who had besieged Luo Qingtong. The latter and the others were horrified. Those Saint Emperors could feel the power of Luo Qingtong's attack. It was enough to kill all of them here. Luo Qingtong was too powerful. How could she be so strong? How was this a strength that a Saint King could possess? Even an ordinary Saint Emperor Realm expert would probably not be inferior to him in any way. Only now did they realize what kind of monster they were up against. Previously, they had wanted to capture Luo Qingtong and send her to the beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace in exchange for benefits. Now they had no idea how ridiculous their thoughts were. They were already very lucky that Luo Qingtong did not find trouble with them. But they still wanted to find trouble with Luo Qingtong. Everyone's hearts were filled with regret and fear. When they saw Luo Qingtong's attack coming, they hurriedly tried to stop it. Quick! Let's attack together. Stop her attack, then we'll immediately scatter and escape. Everyone's faces were filled with panic. Facing Luo Qingtong's attack, they immediately used 100% of their strength. They all used their best attacks and mobilized all the strength in their bodies to attack Luo Qingtong's sword light. However, Luo Qingtong's sword light could eliminate and transform everyone's attack into her own strength. Under such circumstances, unless it was a Saint Emperor who was much stronger than Luo Qingtong, only then would they be able to block Luo Qingtong's attack. Chapter 2044. However, among this group of people, there were Saint Emperors who were stronger than Luo Qingtong. There were not even ordinary Saint Emperors. They could only watch helplessly as the powerful sword light transformed all the power they had blasted out in an instant. Their attacks were all transformed into the power of Luo Qingtong's attack. This made her sword light even more majestic and filled with murderous intent. Bang! Their bodies were ruthlessly slashed by the sword light that swept past them. The Saint Kings at the front were the first to be struck by this attack. They cried out as they were chopped to pieces. As for the other Saint King realm cultivators, they were directly turned into ashes by the violent power of this powerful attack. It wasn't that no one wanted to turn around and run in such a confrontation. However, the power of the soul of 10,000 flames that Luo Qingtong had shaken off with her attack had long been suspended in the air. Countless fiery auras surrounded this area and turned it into a death zone. Anyone who was in this forbidden zone would die. Ah! Tragic screams resounded in the sky. The sky was filled with flying flesh and blood. Luo Qingtong's figure slowly descended in this scene of blood and death. Her fluttering black hair mixed with her blood-red robes, coupled with her gorgeous appearance and cold smile. In this hellish scene, it was as if there was a god of death and an Azura dancer who stepped on blood and was bathed in blood and death. She gently stepped on the ground that had been shaken off by her aura and was thus not stained with a trace of blood. Looking at the scene around her, her expression did not change at all. Since they dared to attack her, they should be prepared to die. Luo Qingtong's cold eyes swept across the crowd in front of her. Suddenly, she saw a figure who was wrapped in countless flames and had not been burned to death. The other party's figure was shrouded in the power of the soul of 10,000 flames. He was constantly screaming and struggling, but there was a faint power lingering around him that enveloped his body. It seemed that there was some kind of treasure protecting him, allowing him to resist the power that Luo Qingtong had arranged around him. This Saint King Realm cultivator had already escaped 100 meters away from the area that Luo Qingtong had set up. If it weren't for the fact that all the people around him had been wiped out, Luo Qingtong would not have been able to see him. Looking at his figure, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and was about to raise her sword to end him. At this moment, Little Pig, who was beside her, suddenly saw something on the man's body. "Hey, wait. Master, it's the jade pendant that your father has." Little Pig's voice sounded, and Luo Qingtong's hand suddenly stopped swinging her sword. Her gaze swept past the martial artist's neck and immediately saw a small jade pendant hanging on his neck. At this moment, the jade pendant was flickering with a faint light that enveloped the cultivator. It turned out that the power of this jade pendant was what helped this cultivator resist the power of Luo Qingtong's soul of 10,000 flames. And this jade pendant was exactly the same as the one that Luo Qingtong obtained from the Celestial Palace Protector. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and appeared in front of the cultivator in a flash. She raised her hand and withdrew the power of the soul of 10,000 flames. "Where did you get this jade pendant?" Chapter 2045. The latter had just escaped from the flame attack. Before he could recover from his shock, Luo Qingtong grabbed his neck and lifted him up. Looking at the jade pendant in Luo Qingtong's hand, the King Realm warrior did not think he was lucky. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said in a trembling voice, "Yes, I got it in the land of the deceased immortals." Luo Qingtong naturally knew that he got this jade pendant in the land of the deceased immortals because this jade pendant was shrouded in an extremely strong death chi. Compared to the one she got from the Celestial Palace Guardian, this one was much more dilapidated and damaged, and its light was far less intense. It should be known that the jade pendant worn by the Celestial Palace Protector had been able to withstand Yi Qianren's attack for a while. The power of this jade pendant was far from what this jade pendant could compare to. If Luo Qingtong had not withdrawn the power of the soul of all flames in time, the jade pendant on this warrior would have been destroyed. Therefore, this jade pendant must have been obtained after entering the land of the deceased immortals. If not for this, Luo Qingtong would not have spared this King Realm warrior's life. "Take me to that place." Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. She had been looking for Luo Jinghong's whereabouts. No matter what, she wanted to see him, dead or alive. Luo Qingtong originally planned to take the corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint for a stroll in the land of the deceased immortals after her strength had improved. Firstly, it could improve the power of the corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint. Secondly, it could also find Luo Jinghong's whereabouts. She did not expect to find information about Luo Jinghong's whereabouts from this warrior. Yes. The warrior had been frightened out of his wits by Luo Qingtong's attack, and his whole body was trembling with fear. Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, he immediately nodded and did not dare to negotiate with her. He was afraid that the girl would be impatient and kill him directly with her sword. Luo Qingtong's strength was beyond the imagination of ordinary people. This King Realm warrior no longer dared to have any wishful thinking in front of her. Miss Tong, I'll take you there." He led Luo Qingtong to the place where he got the jade pendant. Along the way, he realized that Luo Qingtong was far more terrifying than what he had seen just now. Luo Qingtong seemed to be able to see through the fog in the land of the fallen immortals. She actually led him through without any obstructions. The sudden attack of those Yin corpses had nowhere to hide from Luo Qingtong. When the martial artist saw Luo Qingtong kill the Yin corpses that charged out, he felt indescribable shock and joy. Fortunately, he did not play any tricks with Luo Qingtong. Otherwise, he would not even know how he died. With the ability displayed by the girl at the moment, even if she did not use her terrifying strength, she could use the fog in the land of the deceased immortals to completely kill them. However, if he did that, he was afraid that some of them would escape. Thinking of this, the warrior looked at Luo Qingtong with even more fear. The two figures quickly approached the place where the warrior got the jade pendant. Looking at the familiar scene around, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. She had an impression of this place. It was the scene in the text that she had seen in the holy book of the beast-taming King Valley. Chapter 2046. It seemed that this warrior wasn't lying. However, since Luo Jinghong's belongings had fallen here, did that mean that he had died here? Luo Qingtong furrowed her brows. In fact, when Luo Jinghong entered the land of the deceased immortals, it meant that he was doomed. After all, one couldn't enter the land of the deceased immortals before their aura weakened. Otherwise, even if one had the best immortal jade bone, he wouldn't be able to withstand the aura of the land of the deceased immortals for long. He would be corroded to death by the aura of the land of the deceased immortals. The people of the beast-taming King Valley had guarded Luo Jinghong outside the land of the deceased immortals for 7 days. After making sure that he hadn't returned from the original path, they left. Because if Luo Jinghong went deep into the land of the deceased immortals, he would definitely die. They had guarded the periphery of the land of the deceased immortals to make sure that he hadn't come out and died inside. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. Her figure swept toward the place that the warrior had pointed to. It's there. The warrior pointed at the place where he had picked up the jade pendant with trembling hands. It was a patch of thick grass. 2 days ago, he and the people of his sect had passed by here and accidentally caught a glimpse of the jade pendant. So he had picked it up. After all, in the land of the deceased immortals, anything that wasn't corroded by the aura of the land of the deceased immortals was considered a treasure. He had hung the jade pendant around his neck. In the past 2 days it had blocked several attacks for him. Especially this time, if it weren't for the jade pendant, he would have died under Luo Qingtong's attacks. Watch him. Luo Qingtong instructed Little Pig and leaped into the grass. The place where the jade pendant had fallen was a little empty. Compared to the dense grass in other places, there seemed to be fewer weeds here. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes slightly. In a place like the land of the deceased immortals, ordinary weeds couldn't grow. Only the corpse grass that specialized in absorbing corpse aura and death aura could grow. The corpse grass specifically grew on rotting corpses. Generally speaking, as long as the corpse grass grew, there must be corpses below as nutrients. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. The bloody light in her eyes flickered as she scanned the area where the weeds were. Soon, he discovered that there were many corpses lying in a disorderly manner under the weeds. These bodies were buried deep in the ground. Their lying postures were very strange. Luo Qingtong glanced around and did not see Luo Jinghong's body. She frowned slightly. Suddenly, she realized that the way these corpses were placed was a little strange. Moreover, these corpses were neatly cut open with wounds on their bodies. As the aura from these wounds flowed to the places around them, one could see traces of human carvings. These marks had been carved for a very long time, and it was almost impossible to see their existence. They were also thickly covered by the soil. If not for the fact that Luo Qingtong's blood eyes could see the ground clearly and could see the positions of the corpses and the wounds on their bodies, she would not have known that these marks had existed before. This is a formation? Luo Qingtong looked at these corpses in surprise. Using their own strength as the foundation, they had constructed a spatial cross-domain formation. Bang! Luo Qingtong raised her hand. Chapter 2047. Shua. Luo Qingtong used her hand as a sword, following the traces that were no longer visible, drawing on the ground of this patch of grass. The blood-red pupils in her eyes flickered as she drew and practiced while restoring. As for the Saint King Realm cultivator next to her, he was already dumbfounded. There were corpses in this patch of grass, and there was also a hidden array. This was something that the Saint King Realm martial artist did not expect. Boom. After Luo Qingtong restored this array in an instant, there was a boom, the surrounding fog surged and countless Yin Qi and Death Qi gathered, forming a huge vortex in front of Luo Qingtong. However, this vortex was constantly rotating, and there was no sign of tearing space. This was not to say that the array drawn by Luo Qingtong was wrong, but that the driving energy of this array was not enough. If Luo Qingtong guessed correctly, this array was driven by the power of the eruption of the aura of the entire land of the fallen immortals at that time, tearing space. This array was left behind by Luo Jinghong? Besides this, Luo Qingtong had no better explanation. She carefully observed these corpses and found that most of them were people from beast-taming King Valley. Some of them were Yin corpses. Luo Qingtong carefully recalled and found that these people from beast-taming King Valley were indeed people she had seen in the images of the words in the Holy Book. They were all people who had chased after Luo Jinghong before, and then the latter was forced into the land of the fallen immortals, bringing some of them with him. These people from beast-taming King Valley were the people who were dragged into the land of the fallen immortals by Luo Jinghong at that time. In Luo Qingtong's mind, a picture was quickly pieced together. It was Luo Jinghong who deliberately entered the land of the fallen immortals. He knew that under the siege of beast-taming King Valley, he would not be able to escape, so he deliberately came to the land of the fallen immortals. His idea was not to perish together with the people of beast-taming King Valley, but to use the aura of the land of the fallen immortals to tear space and risk leaving True Spill continent. When he entered the land of the deceased immortals, it was not long after the aura of the land of the deceased immortals had erupted. In the land of the deceased immortals, there should still be remnants of the powerful aura from the explosion. After confirming this, Luo Qingtong was very sure that this formation was left by Luo Jinghong. The other party was not dead, but had left through the array formation. This result was very gratifying for Luo Qingtong, because she didn't have to bring a corpse and bad news back to Master Luo and Empress Dowager Yanxi. Luo Jinghong's departure meant that there was still hope for him to survive. Although the one he had activated was a chaotic teleportation array, it was still very powerful. The so-called chaotic teleportation array was a random teleportation array. It was the easiest interdomain teleportation array to set up and activate. That was why Luo Jinghong was able to use the power of the Qi eruption of the land of the deceased immortals and his own strength, which was not very high, to activate this Dharma array. However, at the same time, this formation array represented an extremely great danger. This magic array had no protection when it tore through space and teleported people out. Everything depended on luck. If he was lucky, Luo Jinghong could pass through this Dharma array unscathed and be teleported to a safe place. Chapter 2048. At that time he would still have a slim chance of survival and would not be able to escape misfortune. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong's eyes became very cold. It was a pity that her eye technique was not enough to go back more than 10 years and see where Luo Jinghong had gone through this array. However, as long as this array was still there, she would always have a chance to find out in the future. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong immediately waved her hand and the turf that she had lifted flew back and covered all these corpses. The thick soil also covered these corpses again. Soon, this place was restored to its original state. Luo Qingtong raised her hand and made a mark that only she could see. At the same time, she set up a maze here to prevent anyone from passing by and destroying this array. In this way, when her eye technique improved to a certain level in the future, she could come back and restore this array to trace the place where Luo Jinghong had gone. No matter what, she wanted to see him alive and dead. Even if Luo Jinghong had died in the space turbulence, she wanted to confirm his death. Otherwise, she would never give up. After doing all this, the place where the grass was magically disappeared in front of them with a swish. When the Saint King Realm cultivator saw this scene, his fear of Luo Qingtong grew even more. Array Master Luo Qingtong was actually an Array Master. And looking at the young girl's casual manner, her attainments in Array Masters were not ordinary. Combined with the various abilities that Luo Qingtong had shown along the way, the Saint King Realm cultivator was even more horrified. Because he knew that the reason why Luo Qingtong didn't hide anything in front of him wasn't because she trusted him, but because she already treated him as a dead man. And a dead person would not reveal secrets. Seeing Luo Qingtong turn around, he was very frightened. He quickly knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Luo Qingtong. "Miss Tong, please let me go. I'm willing to listen to you and tell you everything. I promise I won't reveal any of your secrets. I dare to swear to the heavens that if I ever mention any of your secrets in this life, I will be struck by lightning and will never be reincarnated." The Saint King Realm cultivator's face was filled with fear as tears streamed down his face. Luo Qingtong's strength was too strong. With all kinds of strange abilities, he had no confidence that he could escape from the other party. If he did, he wouldn't have been so obedient as to bring Luo Qingtong here. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes at him. She never had the habit of leaving behind any hidden dangers. Most of his secrets had been exposed in front of the other party. If he were to let the other party off, what if he were to risk his life to tell the people of beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace? A trump card that was exposed in the open was no longer a trump card. Furthermore, exposing one's abilities to the public was even more likely to lead to disaster. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. She didn't give up the intention to kill. At this moment, the Saint King Realm cultivator suddenly said, "By the way, Miss Tong, if you're going to cause trouble for the people of Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace, you can go to Broken Star Valley." Chapter 2049. Translation: The Saint King Realm cultivator was trembling with fear, not daring to hide anything from Luo Qingtong. Whether Luo Qingtong was willing to let him go or not, he was prepared to tell Luo Qingtong everything he knew. What if the girl was moved and let him go? In fact, this cultivator did the right thing. Luo Qingtong hated threats the most. Anyone who dared to threaten her, even if they didn't die on the spot, Luo Qingtong would make them pay the price later. But at the same time, she was also very particular about reciprocity and exchange of equal value. This cultivator sincerely begged for mercy, and deliberately told her about the people of Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. Looking at him kneeling on the ground and kowtowing, she dispelled the idea of killing him to silence him for a moment. "Open your mouth." Luo Qingtong looked at him and suddenly said. The Saint King Realm cultivator was stunned for a moment, then subconsciously opened his mouth. Swish. Luo Qingtong flicked her index finger, and a pill entered his mouth at this moment. "Leave this place immediately in half an hour. Don't mention anything related to me in this life. Go." As she spoke, she directly drew a map for the Saint King Realm cultivator to leave this place. It was exactly half an hour, to ensure that the other party wouldn't have time to tell anyone about her in the fallen immortal land. As for what the other party said after leaving, it was his own business. Luo Qingtong didn't care. So what if the people outside knew about her? Not to mention whether they would believe it or not. Even if they believed it, so what? Luo Qingtong's target was only the people of Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace. As for her ability, it would be exposed sooner or later. She couldn't hide it forever. However, Luo Qingtong believed that with the intelligence shown by this Saint King Realm cultivator, he would use all the information he knew in exchange for reducing her murderous intent. He wouldn't risk his life just to expose his abilities. "Yes. Thank you, Miss Tong, for not killing me. Thank you for sparing my life, Miss Tong." The Saint King Realm cultivator was so excited he couldn't even speak coherently. He had already felt Luo Qingtong's killing intent before, but he didn't think that she would really change her mind because of his words. He had not guessed wrongly earlier. This Miss Tong was really someone who repaid kindness with kindness and revenge with vengeance. As long as you don't play any tricks on her, tell her everything and sincerely beg for mercy, she will still let you off. This Saint King Realm cultivator felt as if he had just survived a disaster and kowtowed several times to Luo Qingtong. Then he hurriedly ran out along the route Luo Qingtong gave him, not wanting to stay for even a second longer. Looking at his back, Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. The pill she gave him clashed with the Yin Qi and Death Qi. If he didn't leave the land of the fallen immortals within an hour, he would die. So she wasn't worried that he would not follow her arrangement. Because if he did, he would die. Or he would court death himself. It was no different from killing someone to silence them. "Let's go." Luo Qingtong waved her hand and let Little Pig return to her, then she rushed to the underground nest. She wanted to help Shi Xiao recover his strength before going to Broken Star Valley. She didn't expect that the people of Beast Taming King's Valley would expose the location of Broken Star Valley and call for help. Chapter 2050. It seemed that they had encountered a lot of trouble in the Broken Star Valley. Even the people of the Celestial Palace couldn't get the fifth part of the art of beast taming from the ground. Luo Qingtong's lips curled up as she thought about it. Since that was the case, she would go and cook for them. Luo Qingtong's figure flashed towards the underground lair and quickly rushed back. However, as soon as she got close, she heard a series of screams coming from the front. Help! Help! A group of people were fighting with the corpse puppet of the great young saint in front of them. They were in a sorry state except for a few people at the front who could fend off the corpse puppet's attack. The others were screaming desperately under the attack of the corpse puppet. Their voices were full of fear. Their voices were sharp, and one of the women who was about to be caught by the corpse puppet directly pushed out a young girl behind her. "Go to hell. Yun Shi, it's all your fault for bringing misfortune to our Yun family. For our Yun family to have a descendant like you, we really have 8 lifetimes of bad luck." The middle-aged woman's voice was sharp. She was only a mid-level Saint Lord. Under the attack of the corpse puppet, she couldn't resist at all. She simply pushed Yunxi out. Anyway, this B*TCH was useless to the Yun family. If it weren't for the possibility that she could seduce Luo Qingtong, they wouldn't have brought her to the land of the fallen immortals. This B*TCH deserved to die in the Yun family. It was better than bringing disaster to them. Thinking of this, the middle-aged woman suddenly pulled Yunxi out from behind her and threw her to the corpse puppet of the great young saint. Her actions were straightforward and ruthless. Obviously she had wanted to do this for a long time. Yunxi had been pushed aside by the crowd. Now that she was in danger, she couldn't react at all and was pushed out by the middle-aged woman. Of course, even if she reacted, she couldn't resist. Because the middle-aged woman was much more powerful than her. She was just a girl who hadn't even reached the saint realm. How could she compare with the middle-aged woman who was a mid-level Saint Lord? He could only wait for death with a look of despair. In fact, she should have died a long time ago, right? Yunxi mocked him in her heart. If it wasn't to lure Luo Qingtong out, they wouldn't have let her live until now. Now this was merely a form of release. Thinking about this, Yunxi felt relieved. These people didn't want to believe that she had nothing to do with Luo Qingtong. In fact, she had nothing to do with Luo Qingtong. The only reason she had spoken up for Yun Yan in the beast-taming King's Valley was because she also wanted to deal with Yun Yan. It was impossible for them to use her to lure out Luo Qingtong. Rather than being tortured by them and living in pain, it would be better to die cleanly. Thinking of this, Yunxi stopped resisting and allowed the corpse puppet of the great young saint to grab her. On the other hand, Luo Qingtong heard Yunxi's name from afar and immediately raised her eyebrows. When she saw the appearance of the girl being pushed out by the middle-aged woman, she immediately confirmed her identity. It was the girl she had met in the beast-taming King's Valley, Yun Yan's older sister, Yunxi. Chapter 2051. The other party seemed to be in a very bad situation. She wondered if it had something to do with her identity being exposed. As Luo Qingtong thought about it, she immediately used her mind to control the corpse puppet of the great young saint and made it leave this place. She also marked out the locations of several Yin corpses that she had discovered on her way back, so that it could hunt and increase its strength. Go over and take care of it. Don't let it be hunted by others. The corpse puppet had been severely injured when fighting against those people previously. If not for this, Yunxi and the others would have been killed long ago. Luo Qingtong was speechless when she saw that the strongest among them were only at the peak of the Saint King realm. These people dared to provoke the corpse puppet with such little strength. They were really tired of living. Did they really think that the corpse puppet was easy to bully just because it was severely injured? If Luo Qingtong hadn't come back, these people would have all been killed by the corpse puppet here. At this moment, the corpse puppet of the great young saint had become ferocious because of the group of people in front of it. However, after receiving Luo Qingtong's order, it still forcibly withdrew its hands that were about to poke Yunxi. Then its figure flashed and it disappeared in front of everyone with a roar. Seeing the corpse puppet disappear, everyone felt an indescribable lingering fear in their hearts. At this moment, Yunxi was prepared to be torn to pieces by the corpse puppet. But unexpectedly, the corpse puppet suddenly turned around and left. Her heart pounded violently. Before she could recover her senses, she suddenly heard a voice not far away. Yunxi, why are you here? Hearing this voice, Yunxi was slightly stunned. Then she raised her head abruptly and looked in disbelief at the young man who was walking toward her. Yes, it was the young man. Luo Qingtong had already disguised herself on the way back. She planned to go to Shattered Star Valley later, so she naturally couldn't reveal her identity. Her and Naitai's appearances had already been exposed. In addition, the girl's identity was too eye-catching and suspicious, so Luo Qingtong simply disguised herself as a man. In any case, when she was in the southern and eastern regions, she had dressed as a man. Ordinary people could not tell her true gender at all. As soon as Luo Qingtong's voice sounded, Yunxi recognized Luo Qingtong. There was no other reason. When Luo Qingtong opened her mouth, another voice was transmitted into her mind. I'm Night Eye. With just a few words, Yunxi immediately understood the identity of the handsome young man in front of her. Looking at Luo Qingtong's completely different outfit and voice, Yunxi was very surprised. She almost couldn't help but exclaim out loud, but in the end she forcefully held it back. You, she looked at Luo Qingtong and hesitated a few times. She didn't know how to address Luo Qingtong. However, the girl's voice rang in her mind again. Yijio. Luo Qingtong was not afraid that someone would guess her identity because of this name. In this world there were many people with the same surname. Would the people of the Beastmaster Valley suspect everyone with the surname Yi? They would die of exhaustion. What's more, her disguise was the best cover. Sure enough, after Yunxi announced her name, it didn't attract much attention from other people. Chapter 2052. Who are you? What's your relationship with Yunxi? How do you know her? She interrogated him to get to the bottom of it. Yunxi looked at Luo Qingtong nervously, not knowing what she would say. If the girl couldn't explain, Concubine Li would be suspicious. We've met a few times before. Why are you questioning me? Luo Qingtong looked at Concubine Li with a half-smile. She was the one who had pushed Yunxi to her death, and her words seemed to be full of hatred for Yunxi. Did she have a grudge against Yunxi? Was it related to Yunyan? Otherwise, why would she look at Yunxi with such hatred? Luo Qingtong was thinking this when she heard Yunxi say to Concubine Li nervously, "That's right, I met Yi Jiao on the way back to the family. He saved my and Yunyan's lives." Concubine Li, why are you questioning her like this? As soon as Yunxi spoke, Luo Qingtong immediately understood the identity of the middle-aged woman opposite her. Concubine Li? If she remembered correctly, Yunyan and Yunxi were sisters born of a concubine and Yunyan was born of a concubine. This Concubine Li couldn't be her mother, could she? As Luo Qingtong thought this, she heard Concubine Li shout at Yunxi angrily, "Shut up, there's no room for you to speak here. If it weren't for you, you jinx, how could our family be so unlucky? How could we meet such a strong Yin corpse for no reason? It's not enough that you've harmed our family and Yun are outside, now you're causing us trouble here. Who knows what kind of person you've brought here? If she's like that Luo Qingtong, are you trying to kill us all? You piece of trash, B****, why don't you just die?" Her voice was shrill and her expression was vicious. She looked as if she hated Yunxi to death. The others looked indifferent and didn't say anything. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. "Alright, didn't you want to know my identity? I'm a disciple of the Bright Heart sect." The Clear Heart sect was the sect of the group of people that had just been killed by Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong raised her hand and threw over an identity token she had obtained from them. This was something she had found on those people before. At that time she thought it would be better to be prepared. She didn't expect to use it so soon. Bright Heart sect? Receiving the identity token that Luo Qingtong threw over, the Yun family patriarch's expression was extremely stern. That was a fourth-class sect. He stopped Concubine Mother Li with a sharp expression. After checking Luo Qingtong's identity tablet, she immediately nodded towards Luo Qingtong with a respectful expression. "So, little young master is a disciple of the Clear Heart sect. I wonder why you are here alone." The sects in the land of the deceased immortals moved in groups. Even a relatively scattered family force like the Yun family was the same. Because the danger level in the land of the deceased immortals was too high, and Luo Qingtong was here alone. Therefore, the Yun family patriarch's voice couldn't hide his surprise. "Oh." Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. "When I was chasing that Yin corpse just now, I got separated from the people of my sect." Hearing this, the Yun family patriarch suddenly had no more doubts. Not for anything else but because he was somewhat knowledgeable. The Yin corpse just now had many traces of the unique techniques of the Clear Heart sect on it. Luo Qingtong's words matched this matter. Immediately, he said to Luo Qingtong with a smile, "In that case, little young master, come with us." Chapter 2053. "Oh, I'm going there too." Luo Qingtong looked indifferent. She looked at the patriarch of the Yun family and chuckled. "My sect is going there to help Beast Taming Valley and Celestial Palace. Are you guys going there as well?" The patriarch of the Yun family felt even more relieved after hearing Luo Qingtong's words. Because Broken Star Valley was full of people from Beast Taming Valley and Celestial Palace, if the young man in front of him was really related to Luo Qingtong, he wouldn't dare to go there with them. Now that the young man had taken the initiative to ask, he thought that he should really be a member of the Mingxing clan. He had just met Yunxi a few times before and saved her life. Thinking of this, the patriarch of the Yun family became even more enthusiastic toward Luo Qingtong. Yunxi covered her mouth to suppress the surprise in her heart. Luo Qingtong wanted to go to Broken Star Valley with them? But that place was full of people from Beast Taming Valley and Celestial Palace. And there were also people who had been summoned by Beast Taming Valley and Celestial Palace to help them. What if Luo Qingtong's identity was exposed and she was discovered? She just wanted to tell Luo Qingtong to leave quickly. She didn't expect that the young man would take the initiative to ask to go with them. She looked at Luo Qingtong and opened her mouth. She didn't know what to say in front of so many people. Luo Qingtong looked indifferent. Seeing the worry in Yunshi's eyes, she immediately transmitted a message to her. It's okay. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. She had been looking for an opportunity to go to Broken Star Valley. Now that she was going with the Yun family, it would be easier to hide and less likely to attract attention. As for why the Mingxing clan didn't go to Broken Star Valley, it had nothing to do with her, right? Luo Qingtong wasn't worried about how to explain it to the Yun family. There were so many dangers in the land of the deceased immortals. Who knew why the Clearheart Sect's people were delayed? Of course, the reality was that they were all dead. But if she didn't say anything, who would know? They set off for the Broken Star Valley. She relaxed a lot after receiving Luo Qingtong's message, but she was still a little worried. Why do you want to go to Broken Star Valley? The people from Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace are all there. She and Luo Qingtong walked behind them, pretending to talk about old times, but in fact they were very anxious. She vaguely guessed that Luo Qingtong might be looking for trouble with the Beast Taming King Valley. However, the other party's idea was too bold. That was a first-rate sect. Celestial Palace wasn't weak either. With the support of the Star Alliance, Celestial Palace had the strength of a second-class sect. If there were no accidents in the future, it was only a matter of time before they became a first-rate sect. If Luo Qingtong wanted to look for trouble with them, wouldn't it be the same as walking into a trap? Luo Qingtong couldn't explain herself to her, and she didn't like to expose her trump card for no reason. Hearing this, she smiled and didn't answer. Instead, she asked about Yunshi's situation. What's going on with you now? Did the people from Beast Taming King's Valley look for trouble with you? When Luo Qingtong saw Yunshi, she knew that she might have implicated her. It was even more obvious when she heard concubine Li's words. Presumably, the Yun family already knew that she had spoken for her and dealt with Yun Yen. Chapter 2054. It's okay, this has nothing to do with you. Yunshi looked at her and shook her head. At that time, it was her own idea to deal with Yun Yen, so it was natural that the people of Beast Tamer Valley would come looking for her. It had nothing to do with Luo Qingtong. The girl didn't ask her for help. They just want to know your identity and whereabouts from me. In fact, Yunshi really didn't know anything about Luo Qingtong. After the people of Beast Tamer Valley investigated for a while and confirmed that Yunshi only wanted to deal with Yun Yen and really didn't know Luo Qingtong, they ignored her. On the contrary, the people of the Yun family were very angry at her because she offended Beast Tamer Valley and got involved with Luo Qingtong. The reason why they kept her alive was because they wanted to use her to lure Luo Qingtong out. At that time, they would be able to redeem themselves and rebuild their relationship with Beast Tamer Valley. Yunshi's tone was casual, but Luo Qingtong knew that things weren't that simple. Not to mention that the people of Beast Tamer Valley hated her to death. She didn't know what methods they used to interrogate Yunshi, but in the end they confirmed that she had nothing to do with her. Yunshi's life in the family was probably very difficult, and she didn't know what kind of torture she had experienced. Looking at the people of her family, it seemed that they all wanted her to die. Just now, when Yunshi was pushed out to die by concubine Li, many people were watching from the sidelines and were unwilling to help her. In the end, Yunshi became like this because she helped her. Luo Qingtong knew what to do. You didn't use the thing I gave you before? Luo Qingtong had given Yunshi a beast-taming spell. Now it seemed that Yunshi didn't use it. Otherwise, if she could contract with a demonic beast, the people of the Yun family wouldn't treat her like this. After all, even if Beast Tamer Valley didn't accept a strong person who could control demonic beasts, the people of the Yun family should be very happy to have such a strong person. Yes. Yunshi nodded. She looked at Luo Qingtong with a hesitant expression. Then she spoke her mind. That thing. I keep having the feeling that it's a contracted demonic beast. It doesn't have a soul at all and it's just a tool. I don't like that feeling, so in the end she didn't cultivate the beast-taming incantation. When the people from the Beast Taming King's Valley came knocking on her door, she directly destroyed the beast-taming law. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. She glanced at Yunshi with some surprise. He hadn't expected that Yunshi would be able to see through the flaws in the Beastmaster Valley's method, and that she would be able to control herself and not practice that method. After all, many people, even if they noticed that there was something wrong with the Beast Tamer King Valley's cultivation method, would still cultivate regardless of the cost due to their thirst for power. After all, being able to contract with a demonic beast would bring him a lot of power and help. Especially if he could obtain a powerful demonic beast, that would be even more powerful. Yes. She looked at Yunxi and nodded. The Beast Master Valley's method does have a lot of flaws. Since you didn't cultivate it at that time, then you don't have to cultivate it. When the flaws are solved, I will give you a complete beast taming incantation. She would treat it as compensation for the other party being implicated by her. Upon hearing this, Yunxi immediately covered her mouth. Chapter 2055. She had thought that she had sensed wrongly, but since Luo Qingtong said so, she had no choice but to believe it. After all, Luo Qingtong was someone who the people of the Beast Tamer King's Valley wanted to capture at all costs. She must know a lot about the Beast Tamer King's Valley. Suddenly she let out a low cry, then looked at Luo Qingtong and asked in a low voice, "Is the incident in the Broken Star Valley also related to the Beast Tamer spell? Otherwise, why would the people of the Beast Tamer King's Valley suddenly expose such a place and desperately try to get what was inside?" For this reason, they did not hesitate to invite a large number of forces, and even joined forces with the people of the Celestial Palace. Obviously, they knew what was inside and desperately wanted to get their hands on it. Thinking about what Luo Qingtong had just said to her, and then thinking about the unusual behavior of the Beast Tamer King's Valley this time, Yunxi suddenly realized that the secret of the Beast Tamer King's Valley had been discovered by Luo Qingtong. That's why he desperately wanted to take out the thing inside the cave. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been in such a hurry. There was no need to expose the location of the treasure like this. The only explanation was that this place had already been exposed. Therefore, the people of the Beast Tamer King's Valley simply exposed it completely. And they wanted to get what was inside at all costs. Okay. Luo Qingtong nodded. She looked at Yunxi with a faint smile and said, "That's right." She was not afraid that Yunxi would know. Anyway, the people of the Beast Tamer King's Valley had already exposed the location of the Broken Star Valley. The people who entered it would sooner or later know the purpose of the people of the Beast Tamer King's Valley. Therefore there was nothing to hide. Hearing this, Yunxi covered her mouth even tighter. She was afraid that if she was not careful, she would make a louder sound and attract the attention of others. She didn't expect that she had guessed right. Luo Qingtong was going to stop this and even wanted to get the Beast Tamer spell? Yunxi felt that she had never been so shocked and excited in her life. Luo Qingtong's idea was too bold. Yunxi originally wanted to persuade Luo Qingtong not to do this. After all, the Beast Taming King's Valley was a first-class sect. Coupled with the existence of the Celestial Palace and other forces, it was too dangerous for Luo Qingtong to go against them. But before she could say anything, she recalled how Luo Qingtong and the Beast Taming King's Valley became enemies, sneaking into the Beast Taming King's Valley and messing it up. Not only that, she even framed the people of Beast Taming King's Valley, causing them to become enemies with the people of Celestial Palace, making them take the blame for her. Yunxi thought about what she had heard from others or what she had personally experienced, and she felt that what she had to say was too weak. Luo Qingtong had already done such a thing, so why would she be afraid of going against the Beast Taming King's Valley? Thinking about this, the corners of Yunxi's mouth twitched slightly, and she didn't say anything else. Feeling nervous and excited, she came to the Broken Star Valley with Luo Qingtong and the Yun family. At this moment, many people had gathered in the Broken Star Valley. After hearing that the people of the Beast Taming King's Valley were calling for help, almost all the sects and forces nearby who were willing to come had rushed over. Those who were unwilling to come would not come again. When the people of the Yun family arrived, it was already late. Chapter 2056. After all, the time in the land of the deceased immortals was limited. No one wanted to waste time here and wait for others to come. The same went for the people from Beast Taming Valley and Celestial Palace. After all, they had a bigger ambition. They wanted to finish things here before the aura of the Forbidden Land weakened. Then they would have a chance to enter the Forbidden Land and get the treasures inside. Especially the people from Beast Taming Valley. That was what they thought. After they got the 5th beast taming incantation, the drawbacks of contracting demonic beasts would disappear. When they completely communicated with their contracted demonic beasts, their strength would be at least twice as strong as their current strength. Let's go. Seeing that almost all the people had arrived and had reached the number he expected, Beast-taming King Guguju's face turned cold. He waved his hand at the crowd and asked them to follow him into the Shattered Star Valley. The people from the Yun family were mixed in the crowd. Before they could ask about the situation here, they were pushed into the valley by the crowd. Luo Qingtong, on the other hand, had already learned about the situation in Broken Star Valley from the conversations of the people around her when she entered the entrance. The truth was similar to what she thought. The people from Beast-Taming Valley and Celestial Palace had indeed entered the Shattered Star Valley once. But they were not strong enough and had to retreat. The reason why they called everyone here was to ask them to help them enter the depths of the Shattered Star Valley. As long as they could enter, no matter how much effort they put in, they would be rewarded by Beast-Taming Valley. Hearing these people's conversation, Luo Qing narrowed her eyes. The Beast-Taming King Valley's offer was simply too generous. No matter how much effort they put in, they would be rewarded. Didn't this mean that there were many people who wanted to fish in troubled waters? Or rather, they didn't care whether they put in effort or not as long as they had enough people? Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong suddenly narrowed her eyes. Sometimes, some small details were the easiest to expose the problem. There was definitely something fishy about the people from Beast-Taming Valley and Celestial Palace calling these people here. They couldn't just be here to help. Others might think that Beast-Taming Valley thought that more people meant more power. Therefore, as long as someone contributed, they would be rewarded in order to attract more people. But Luo Qingtong could see more than that. Would those people from the Beast-Taming King's Valley make such a loss-making deal? No matter what level of cultivation they were going to accept them? Obviously, they were looking for cannon fodder to replace them. It was very likely that these people had become bait for the people of Beast-Taming King's Valley. They were using them to catch something that they wanted to catch. As she thought about this, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and said to Yunxi, who was beside her, "There's something wrong here. Follow me closely later." Luo Qingtong might not have the time or energy to take care of Yunxi. If the other party could follow her closely, then they might have a chance to survive. If he didn't follow closely, then there was nothing he could do. Luo Qingtong would not go out of her way to save her. Yes. Yunxi nodded. She was very nervous and her palms were sweating. However, his eyes couldn't help but shine. She always felt that she seemed to be experiencing something extremely crazy and exciting. Chapter 2057. Perhaps it was because the girl in front of her was the most amazing and unbelievable girl she had ever seen in her short life of more than 10 years. She had a feeling that Luo Qingtong might really succeed. After telling Yunxi, Luo Qingtong let the corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint come closer to her. That's right. After Luo Qingtong let the corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint leave to hunt other Yin corpses, she let it disguise itself and follow her and the Yin family. Of course, Little Pig played a part in this. The latter had dressed up the corpse puppet that the great Yong Saint had transformed into a lifelike state. Now he was mixed in the crowd and wearing a veil hat, so he didn't give himself away at all. All the questions and conversations were answered by Little Pig hiding in the corpse puppet's arms, so he was able to get away with it. After receiving Luo Qingtong's order, the corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint immediately moved closer to Luo Qingtong's side. In the Yun family, the patriarch of the Yun family followed the crowd and led the people of the Yun family inside. At the same time, he asked Luo Qingtong, "Ninth young master, it seems that the people of your Mingxin sect didn't see them?" He wanted to get close to the people of the Mingxin sect. However, he didn't expect to see the people of the Mingxin sect after coming to the Shattered Stars Valley. And Luo Qingtong didn't seem to have any intention of looking for her sect. Oh. Luo Qingtong looked indifferent. "I didn't see anyone of my sect. Maybe they were delayed by something and didn't come here." There were countless dangers in the land of the deceased immortals, so Luo Qingtong's words were not suspicious. After all, it was the truth. If they hadn't luckily escaped from the Yin corpses, they might have all died. How could they have the chance to come to the Shattered Stars Valley? Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, the people of the Yun family didn't have any special reaction. The patriarch of the Yun family was just a little disappointed. However, with Luo Qingtong here, it was the same for him to get to know the people of the Mingxin sect in the future. Thinking of this, he didn't say anything more. On the contrary, it was concubinely. After hearing Luo Qingtong's words, his expression immediately became sharp and unkind. "Humph. I think she might be lying. What Brightheart sect's disciple? Who knows if he's a fake? And you? Yunxi, don't think that you're all that just because you've hooked up with a disciple from a fourth-class clan." Her voice was high and shrill. Do they know that you've offended someone from the beast-taming King's Valley? Who knows when they'll kill you? She raised her voice and squinted her triangular eyes. It was clear that she deliberately said it for Luo Qingtong to hear, so that Luo Qingtong could stay away from Yunxi. This way, regardless of whether the other party was a disciple of a fourth-class clan or not, Yunxi would have no one to rely on. In fact, Concubine Li was very angry when Luo Qingtong appeared. She didn't plan on using Yunxi this time. She didn't plan on using Yunxi to lure out Luo Qingtong so she would kill her completely. However, Luo Qingtong's appearance changed her plan. Once this young man tried his best to protect Yunxi with the background of a fourth-class clan, unless the people of the beast-taming King's Valley took action, they would definitely kill Yunxi. Otherwise, the people of the Yun family would never offend them. However, the beast-taming King's Valley was a first-class clan. Chapter 2058. Concubine Li was afraid that she wouldn't be able to give Yun Yen a chance to take revenge, so she wanted to discredit Luo Qingtong and make her stay away from Yunxi. That way she could continue to deal with Yunxi and avenge Yun Yen without worrying about anyone stopping her. As she thought about it, her voice became sharper and more high-pitched. However, Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She glanced at her and ignored her. What was the point of arguing with such a clown? Luo Qingtong wasn't in the mood for that, especially at a time like this. When the other party didn't die this time and came back to talk to her, she might be in the mood to teach her a lesson. She would just treat it as a dog barking. Yunxi apologized in a low voice. "I'm sorry. She is Yun Yan's mother. Because of me she is treating you like this." Before she could finish, Luo Qingtong glanced at her and said calmly, "No need to apologize. She doesn't know who I am. Otherwise she would have attacked me long ago. What does it have to do with you?" They both had a grudge against Concubine Li, so Yunxi didn't have to apologize. Yunxi was taken aback. Then she felt that it was true. However, Luo Qingtong was being scolded by Concubine Li with a different identity, so she felt a little apologetic. After all, Luo Qingtong had joined the Yuns because she saw her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been scolded by Concubine Li. Yunxi was about to speak when Luo Qingtong's voice continued to ring in her mind. "Moreover, someone will teach her a lesson." As soon as Luo Qingtong finished speaking, Yunxi heard the Yun's patriarch shout, "Enough. Fourth brother, look after your woman." The Yun's patriarch's expression was cold. Concubine Li had dealt with Yunxi in various ways, both openly and secretly. After all, the latter was useless to the Yuns. But Yi Jiu was different. He was a disciple of a fourth-class clan. The Yun family's patriarch originally wanted to use Luo Qingtong to climb up the Clear Heart sect's road. How could he allow Concubine Li to speak to Luo Qingtong like this? He also said that Luo Qingtong might be lying and that she wasn't a disciple of the Clear Heart sect. Wasn't this saying that he was blind and had misjudged the person, that he couldn't even tell whether the other party was a true disciple of the Bright Heart sect or not? From Concubine Li's words, Yun family's patriarch could tell that she wasn't belittling and ridiculing Luo Qingtong, but rather she was mocking him. He immediately flew into a rage. "If I hear any more rude remarks about the ninth young master, your family can forget about staying in the main branch in the future," he said coldly. "Yes." The man who was called Old Fourth was Yunxi's father. Hearing this, he immediately agreed, stepped forward, and viciously dragged Concubine Li away, although he usually doted on Concubine Li very much. But at this time he still couldn't allow Concubine Li to make trouble for him. Not to mention that her actions had already seriously affected his status in the main branch. "Shut up." He directly slapped Concubine Li's face. "If you speak to the ninth young master because of Yun Yen again, you can get out of the Yun family." Yun Laoxi's voice was filled with anger. He didn't have any father-daughter feelings for Yunxi, and usually indulged Concubine Li to be harsh to the mother and daughter. But now Yunxi had already climbed up the ranks of the Clear Heart sect's disciples. Naturally, he couldn't let Concubine Li go overboard. Slap. This slap landed hard on Concubine Li's face, and in an instant half of her face swelled up. She screamed at the top of her lungs, "Yun Laoxi you!" Before she could finish her words, in an instant, the situation around her changed abruptly. It was over. Chapter 2059. Translations bang. Suddenly the sound of an attack came from the front. Then miserable screams rang out in an instant. Hearing this, the Yun family and Luo Qingtong turned to look at the front. The people who were walking at the very front seemed to have suffered some kind of attack. In an instant, a large number of people screamed. Many of them were bleeding profusely, and the surrounding people were in chaos. What's going on? They looked around but didn't see any enemy. But the people lying in pools of blood in front of them told them that the enemy had appeared and was near them. Everyone felt an indescribable horror in their hearts. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes coldly. She looked very serious. It was for no other reason than the fact that what she saw in her blood-red eyes was completely different from what others saw. She saw that the depths of the Shattered Star Valley were densely packed with blood-red figures. That's right, it was the blood-immortal jade bone that she had killed and refined before she had fought with it before. At this moment, the depths of the Shattered Star Valley were filled with blood-red figures. No wonder the Beast-Taming Valley and the Celestial Palace couldn't get the fifth part of the beast-taming incantation from the depths of the Shattered Star Valley. It turned out that the depths of the Shattered Star Valley were completely occupied by the blood-red immortal jade bones. Luo Qingtong had seen these blood-red immortal jade bones before, so she knew how powerful they were. She also knew that these blood-red immortal jade bones were always invisible in the eyes of others. There was no way to catch a trace of them, unless they were attached to a corpse. But even if they were attached to a corpse, they couldn't hurt them because they didn't have a physical body at all. After seeing the densely packed blood-red figures, Luo Qingtong roughly understood why the beast-taming valley had gathered so many people. They wanted to use these people as cannon fodder to restrain the blood-red immortal jade bones. No wonder they promised so generously. So this was their plan. Luo Qingtong sneered. As for the blood-immortal jade bones, when they saw so many people rushing towards their location, they immediately launched an attack. They roared and attacked the crowd. Their roars could only be heard by Luo Qingtong and the beast-taming King Guguju and other experts above the Holy Emperor realm. Countless sound waves and roars blew gusts of wind in the depths of the Shattered Star Valley. The surrounding spiritual energy was surging and rioting. The people who came in with the beast-taming valley didn't know what was going on, so they screamed miserably one after another. Just like those people in front of them, people kept dying in the crowd. At this moment, those who had been killed by the blood-red figures stood up shakily and pounced on the people beside them. They were possessed by the blood-red immortal jade bones. At this moment, they stood up again and pounced on the people in front of them like living creatures. Ah! Sharp screams rang out and the surroundings were like hell on earth. Chapter 2060. These skeletons weren't weak to begin with, and they could even control the movements of the corpses. This meant that every time someone died, it would become a boost for the blood-immortal jade bones transformation. It was impossible to guard against them. The more they killed, the fewer people they had left. On the other hand, the skeletons grew stronger and stronger. If this continued, they would be completely annihilated here sooner or later. The factions that followed the beast-taming valley and were scared out of their wits. There were also people who immediately recognized the immortal jade bones after seeing them attached to the corpses. They're bloody corpses. They're the damn things that created bloody corpses. Their shrill cries caused the expressions of those who didn't know what was going on to change. Bloody corpses? Everyone who could enter the land of the fallen immortals knew about the terrifying existence of the blood carrion. Even those who hadn't seen them before had heard of them. Basically, anyone who encountered them would die a horrible death. Unless it was an expert of the Saint Emperor realm or above, if they were lucky they might be able to escape from the hands of that thing. Otherwise they wouldn't even know how they died. Were these things attached to the corpses the same damn things that created bloody corpses? Everyone's faces turned pale in an instant. They looked at the corpses of their companions that were controlled by the blood-immortal jade bones and pounced on them. Only then did they realize that the corpses were indeed very similar to the blood-rotting corpses. The only difference was that one was a fresh corpse, and the other was a rotten corpse. But weren't rotten corpses formed from fresh corpses? Their faces turned even paler at this thought. It really is those damn things. Run, run. They didn't want to stay here any longer. They didn't know what these things were before. Now that they knew they were all the same damn things that created bloody corpses, and there were clearly many of them, how could they dare to stay any longer? Were they going to stay and become food for these bloody corpses? Their faces were filled with panic and fear as they hurriedly ran away. They were in the same state as when the beast-taming valley and Celestial Palace fled. It was just that those from the beast-taming valley and Celestial Palace had escaped. However, they were summoned here by the beast-taming King's Valley and the Celestial Palace. How could the latter allow them to escape so easily? If they ran away, Where would the beast-taming King's Valley and the Celestial Palace find other people to die for them? After all, the news of what happened in Shattered Star Valley would spread if they ran away. Thus, when these people turned around, they discovered that the people from the beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace who were leading the way had all ran behind them at some point. At this moment, the beast-taming King Valley's Valley Master and the others were looking at them with a cold smile. Everyone, since you're already here, why are you in such a rush to leave? Since you've decided to help us, then help us. The beast-taming King Valley Master and the others had a cold expression on their faces as they waved their hands to signal for their men to disperse and block off all possible escape routes. Seeing this, the people from the other forces were in despair. Chapter 2061. It was obvious that they wanted them to die. By this time, they had fully understood the intentions of the people from Beast-Taming Valley and Celestial Palace. The reason why they had gathered them here was not to ask for their help. They were here to send them to their deaths. The hearts of the Yun family members were filled with despair. They had never thought that they would end up like this after coming to the Broken Star Valley. The people from Beast-Taming Valley had called them here to find a scapegoat. Together with the rest of the people, they could forget about going back alive. They all looked desperate. Luo Qingtong frowned as she looked at the figures of the blood-colored celestial jade bones rushing toward them. She hadn't expected that the depths of the Broken Star Valley would be full of such things. Luo Qingtong could see through the transformation of the blood-colored celestial jade bones, but it didn't mean that she could break through so many of them and rush into the innermost part of the valley. It seemed that she couldn't sneak in and get the fifth part of the beast-taming incantation. The transformation of the blood-colored celestial jade bones was obstructing her in the depths of the Broken Star Valley. She had to deal with them first. Moreover, there were also the people from Beast-Taming Valley and Celestial Palace. Luo Qingtong couldn't let them use these people to restrain the transformation of the blood-colored celestial jade bones. Otherwise, it would be more difficult for her to succeed if the two families were free. What's more, even if she couldn't get the fifth part of the beast-taming incantation, she couldn't let the people from Beast-Taming Valley get it. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong suddenly had an idea. At this moment, Concubine Li, who had just been slapped by Yun Laosi, screamed in a shrill voice. "It's you, little bitch. It's you who brought this disaster. Otherwise, how could the Yun family be so unlucky? We came to the Broken Star Valley to help, but we encountered such a thing." Concubine Li's voice was shrill. At this moment, she had completely lost her mind and rushed toward Yun Shi. "And you, a disciple of the Mingxing clan. I think you're this little bitch's lover. Both of you die together." As she spoke, she sent a palm strike toward Yun Shi. At the same time, she sent another palm strike toward Luo Qingtong. Concubine Li's expression was ferocious. She thought that they were going to die, so she couldn't care about anything else. Before she died, she would definitely teach these two B*****s a lesson. With a ferocious expression, she pounced toward Luo Qingtong and Yun Shi, and the aura around her surged. That sharp hand was about to touch Yun Shi. With her strength, Yun Shi definitely wouldn't be able to withstand a single blow from her. Seeing her move, Luo Qingtong's eyes turned cold and she raised her hand. Clang. The life and death yin-yang sword appeared in her hand and she swung it in an instant. Bang! Before Concubine Li could get close to Yun Shi, she was mercilessly sent flying by Luo Qingtong's sword. She screamed in a shrill voice and fell into the group of blood-colored immortal jade skeletons that had rushed over. In an instant, she was torn into pieces by the corpses controlled by the blood-colored immortal jade skeletons. The beast-taming King Guguju and the others heard the noise and turned to look. Chapter 2062. Luo Qingtong? They looked at the youngster. No, the girl standing in the crowd with a long sword in her hand. Luo Qingtong had taken off her disguise and changed back to her original appearance. She looked at the beast-tamer King Guguju and the others with a faint smile and said, "Beast-tamer King Guguju, Celestial Palace, how have you been?" Hearing her voice, the beast-tamer King Guguju and the master of Celestial Palace looked extremely ferocious. "Bitch, how dare you show up in front of us? How dare you sneak into this group of people?" The beast-tamer King Guguju and the master of Celestial Palace didn't expect to see Luo Qingtong here. They didn't know what this bitch wanted to do. Fortunately, they forced her to show up by using these people as cannon fodder. Otherwise, they didn't know what she would do after following these people into the depths of the Shattered Star Valley. The beast tamer King Gu Guju and the master of Celestial Palace didn't think that Luo Qingtong sneaked into this group of people just to say hello to them. Especially the beast tamer King Gu Guju, he knew that Luo Qingtong knew the secret of the Shattered Star Valley. This bitch. If it weren't for the fact that they were afraid that she would reveal the secret here and cause unnecessary trouble, they would have done everything they could. Otherwise they wouldn't have risked everything to take out the thing inside the valley. The beast tamer King Gu Guju was furious. He looked at Luo Qingtong with eyes full of killing intent and hatred. This bitch had caused such a huge commotion in their beast-taming King Valley. How dare she show up here? What was she up to? This time they must kill her. Men surround her. I don't care if she lives or dies. The beast-tamer King Gu Guju shouted with a ferocious face. The Celestial Palace Master also ordered his men to attack Luo Qingtong. The young girl had the treasure map on her. As long as they could kill her, they would be able to obtain the treasure map regardless of whether she was dead or alive. They, the people of Celestial Palace, could at least get a share of the loot. Luo Qingtong, just wait for your death. Everyone's expression was ferocious. Apart from leaving a few people to guard the path leading to the valley entrance, the rest rushed towards Luo Qingtong. Watching them rush over she felt indescribably nervous. Qingtong. She looked at the girl beside her, wondering why the other party would suddenly reveal her identity. The beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace wanted her dead. Luo Qingtong was in danger. Qingtong, immediately change my appearance to yours, then quickly run. I'll help you block them. She gritted her teeth. She saw how Luo Qingtong had just restored her appearance in an instant. If the other party had such speed and helped her disguise herself, they would definitely be able to get away with it. With so many people here they could just hide in any place. When they came out again, the people of the beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace would definitely not know who they were. At that time, Luo Qingtong could directly change her appearance and leave. As soon as she said this, Luo Qingtong looked at her and smiled. No need. I'll be fine. Since Luo Qingtong dared to restore her identity at this time, she was naturally confident. Otherwise, with concubine Li's strength, how could she need to use the life and death sword? He sent her flying with a single kick. She couldn't be any more dead. Luo Qingtong took out the life and death sword in order to let the people of the beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace see through her identity. Chapter 2063. Luo Qingtong's eyes swept across the crowd, then she said in a deep voice, I'm sure you've heard it. I'm Luo Qingtong. She narrowed her eyes. I can help you deal with the blood immortal jade bones, as long as you help me deal with the people from beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace. I'll help you get out of this Shattered Star Valley. What do you think? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows slightly. When the crowd heard her words, a commotion broke out. Luo Qingtong. She's that Luo Qingtong? Everyone present was no stranger to Luo Qingtong's name. Recently, in the hidden world, news about Luo Qingtong was all over the place. Of course, that was Luo Qingtong's other name, Night Eye. However, at the entrance of the land of the fallen immortals, most of the people who saw Luo Qingtong confronting the people from beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace knew that Luo Qingtong was Night Eye. The two of them were the same person. And Luo Qingtong was also an honorary guest elder of the Sky Yuan sect. She was a young girl, yet she was able to make a name for herself in the hidden world among several large sections. Luo Qingtong even played the people from beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace in the palm of her hand. If Fang Jingyu hadn't forced her to swear on the man beside her, she wouldn't have taken the initiative to reveal her identity. The misunderstanding between beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace wouldn't be resolved so easily. And the people from beast-taming King Valley couldn't deal with Luo Qingtong. Such a legendary girl, even those who didn't pay much attention to the outside world inevitably heard about her. And this wasn't the main reason why everyone was restless. They were restless because of the treasure map in Luo Qingtong's hands. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's words were said by another person. Even if the other party's reputation was greater than Luo Qingtong's, and the commotion she caused in the hidden world was more intense, no one would be willing to listen to her. But Luo Qingtong was different. The girl had the treasure map of the land of the fallen immortals. This was confirmed by the people of beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace from the beginning. And it was precisely because of this treasure map that the situation between the two sides had become so tense. And that treasure map was with Luo Qingtong. This was what Luo Qingtong had admitted in front of everyone. Therefore, Everyone was only pleasantly surprised by Luo Qingtong's words and did not question them. After all, the girl had that treasure map. Perhaps she really did have a way to deal with these blood-colored immortal jade bone transformations. Since she was trapped in the Broken Star Valley with them, she wouldn't risk her own life. With this thought in mind, everyone's spirits were lifted. Come on. Let's protect Luo Qingtong together. Don't let those bastards from Beast-Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace hurt her. Among the crowd of people, some of the more powerful experts from the sects immediately ordered. They led the experts from their sects to surround Luo Qingtong, encircling her, Yun Shi, and the corpse puppet of the great young saint. When the others heard this, they also recovered from their shock and gathered around this group of people from the sect. Chapter 2064. Bastard. Beast Tamer King Gu Guju and the Master of Celestial Palace were both anxious and angry when they saw this scene. They had never expected that Luo Qingtong would say such a thing. She could help those people deal with those damn things in the Broken Stars Valley? How could this be possible? They were both shocked and confused. This was especially true for the Beast Taming King Valley's Valley Master, Elder Dark, and the others. Was Luo Qingtong bluffing to trick these people into protecting her? Or did she really have a way? If she really had a way, they had an unspeakable bad feeling in their hearts. If Luo Qingtong really had a way to deal with these blood-red figures, then it would be a bad move for them to gather all these people and force them to their deaths. These people were forced to die by them, and Luo Qingtong happened to be able to save them. How could they not listen to Luo Qingtong? With the help of these people, Luo Qingtong went from being alone to being extremely powerful. She was completely capable of dealing with those blood-red figures. In this way, if she managed to break through the blockade of those blood-red figures, then all of their efforts this time would have been for nothing. Thinking of this, Beast Tamer King Gu Guju and the others were both anxious and angry in an instant. Do it. Kill Luo Qingtong quickly. Don't worry about the others. Kill those who stand in our way. A bad feeling arose in their hearts. Beast Tamer King Gu Guju and the others had suffered a great loss in the hands of Luo Qingtong before. Regardless of whether Luo Qingtong's words were true or not, it did not matter whether they were true or not. They couldn't give her any chance to make a comeback. Kill her. Beast Tamer King Gu Guju shouted coldly. Not far from Luo Qingtong, the people of the Yun family were already dumbfounded. When Luo Qingtong's identity was exposed, they had hurriedly distanced themselves from her. They had never thought that the disciple of the Brightheart sect they had met would be Luo Qingtong, who was wanted by Beast Tamer Valley and Celestial Palace. What was even more unexpected was that she knew that the people of Beast Tamer Valley and Celestial Palace were here and still came to the Broken Stars Valley. What kind of bear's heart and leopard's guts did she eat? When Luo Qingtong's identity was exposed, the people had hurriedly distanced themselves from Luo Qingtong, fearing that they would be implicated by Luo Qingtong if they were not careful. There were also people of the Yun family who wanted to use Luo Qingtong's identity to establish a relationship with Beast Tamer Valley. They wanted to tell the people of Beast Tamer Valley that they had deliberately tricked Luo Qingtong to come here, so that the people of Beast Tamer Valley would let them go. However, who would have thought that before their plan could be carried out, Luo Qingtong's situation would immediately reverse. The girl said that she could deal with those damn things of Beast Tamer Valley, and the people of other forces directly wanted to protect her. The people of the Yun family were indescribably dumbfounded. If Luo Qingtong could really deal with those damn things, then how stupid were they to hurriedly withdraw from her side? Especially when they wanted to use Luo Qingtong's matter to gain the favor and recognition of the Beast Taming King Valley and beg the other party to let them go. How stupid were they? Chapter 2065. They would be lucky if the other party didn't kill them. How could they expect the other party to protect them? On the other hand, Luo Qingtong was different. Didn't they see that Yun Shi had been standing beside Luo Qingtong since the beginning? Now she was being protected by everyone? This was a great opportunity for them. They obviously had this opportunity, but they gave it up. As everyone thought about it, they instantly regretted it so much that their hearts, livers, spleens, and stomachs ached. While everyone in the Yun family was regretting their decision, Yun Shi looked at Luo Qingtong in surprise and shock. She didn't expect things to turn around like this. Her hand was still tightly grasping Luo Qingtong's sleeve. She wanted her to disguise herself so that the two of them could switch places and Luo Qingtong could leave safely. But she didn't expect Luo Qingtong to solve everything with just a few words. But was Luo Qingtong telling the truth? Could it be that she said it deliberately so that these people could protect them? If that was the case, what would happen if someone saw through it? She was very conflicted. From the bottom of her heart, she was very willing for Luo Qingtong's words to be true. This way both of them would be fine along with the others. But from a rational point of view, she was worried that this was just a trick for Luo Qingtong to get away. If this was the case, when they were exposed later, there would be a bigger backlash. While she was feeling uneasy, Luo Qingtong glanced at the people from the Beastmaster Valley and the Celestial Palace who were rushing over desperately. Then she said to the people around her, "Let's go." Rush in the direction of the valley. In the depths of the Broken Star Valley was the gathering place of those bloody figures. At this moment, those bloody figures, together with the corpses they controlled, were rushing toward the people of the various forces. Even without Luo Qingtong's order, the people of these forces had no choice but to face these bloody figures and the corpses they controlled. After all, their rear was blocked by the people from Beast-Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace. The two forces were strong enough to stop all of them, making it impossible for them to break through the blockade and get out of Shattered Star Valley. Now that they heard Luo Qingtong's order, they only hesitated for a moment. Then they gritted their teeth and rushed in the direction of the bloody figures. After all, Luo Qingtong said that she could deal with these things. As a result, the place where the blood-red figures gathered was their only chance of survival. After all, even if they worked together, they might not be able to deal with the people from Beast-Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace. He might as well charge in. With that thought in mind, everyone immediately took action. The people from the Yun family were left behind. They were both regretful and afraid, but they still followed Luo Qingtong and the others in the direction of the bloody figures. The people from Beast-Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace became even more anxious. Does she really have a way? The Beastmaster Guguju and the Master of Celestial Palace were indescribably angry. The bad feeling in their hearts was getting heavier and heavier. They hurriedly led their people to chase after Luo Qingtong and the others, trying to stop them all. Chapter 2066. At that time, they had indeed quietly surrounded a group of people from different forces. But now, when Luo Qingtong led these people to retreat, they couldn't catch up. Not only that, but as they rushed forward, those blood-colored figures also rushed towards them. As a result, before they could catch up to Luo Qingtong and the others, the latter had already rushed into the encirclement of those blood-colored figures. One of the sect disciples who was at the periphery of the encirclement was the first to confront the blood-colored figures and the corpses they controlled. When the mental power of the blood-colored figures blasted into his mind, he immediately let out a sharp cry and scratched himself desperately like a madman. Seeing this scene, the group of people surrounding Luo Qingtong were shocked and quickly looked at Luo Qingtong, who was surrounded by them. "Miss Tong, look at this." Everyone was anxious. Luo Qingtong said that she could deal with these blood-colored figures. There shouldn't be a problem, right? Don't be unable to deal with them. Otherwise all of them would have to die here. Damn it, these bastards from Beast-Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace, they actually forced them to come to their deaths. When they leave this place, they must make the despicable actions of Beast-Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace known to the public. Let everyone in the hidden world see how vicious and shameless their thoughts were. At that time, they would unite their sects and seek justice from Beast-Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace. They would let the other party know that weak sects like theirs were not so easily bullied. Everyone gritted their teeth in hatred. If it weren't for this, they wouldn't have helped Luo Qingtong so decisively and stood on her side. When everyone looked over, Luo Qingtong's blood-colored eyes flashed. She had already clearly seen the location of the mental power attack that rushed into the mind of that sect disciple. Bang! She raised her hand and in an instant, the light from the life and death duality sword in her hand swept out and slashed towards that sect disciple. When they saw this scene, everyone's faces were instantly filled with shock. Was this the method that Luo Qingtong said to deal with those blood-colored figures? Directly slashing the person. But when facing those blood-colored figures, they also did the same thing. As long as someone was controlled, they would immediately attack. In this way, when one person was killed, the blood-colored figure's assistance would not continue to increase. But this was completely treating the symptoms and not the root cause. The more people on their side were killed, the weaker their side's strength. On the contrary, the blood-red figures didn't suffer any damage after the first person was killed. They continued to charge towards the second person and continued to control him. They couldn't continue to kill each other like this, right? If that's the case, they'll annihilate us sooner or later. If it weren't for this, they wouldn't have escaped from the valley. They did not expect Luo Qingtong to use the same method as them. What was the point of this? In the end, wouldn't they still die? They knew that this method wouldn't work, so they raced to escape. Everyone's hearts were filled with indescribable disappointment and anger. They felt that they had been inexplicably played by someone. Chapter 2067. Bang! Luo Qingtong's sword light landed on the disciple's body, but it didn't leave a single mark on him. However, the disciple held his head and screamed in an instant. His scream was so shrill that it made one's hair stand on end. Obviously, it wasn't a human scream. It carried an extremely sharp and resounding aura of violence and death. In the next second, with a bang, everyone watched as a faint blood-red mist drifted out of his mind. Then, with a boom, it exploded into a cloud of blood mist in front of everyone. At the same time, an explosion came from somewhere deep in the Broken Stars Valley in the distance. Then blood gurgled out of it, leaving a blood-red mark on the ground. Everyone opened their eyes wide in an instant. Was the thing that Luo Qingtong hacked out the culprit of the bloody carrion? Those damn things that they couldn't see and couldn't do anything to? Everyone was shocked. However, Luo Qingtong looked indifferent. She withdrew the life and death sword in her hand. Then she narrowed her eyes and flicked her fingers. Swish, 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 swish. She flicked out streaks of aura into the bodies of the blood-red figures in front of her, leaving a clear mark on their bodies. Do you see the mark in their bodies? Hit them. Luo Qingtong's eyes turned cold. The reason why they couldn't defeat these blood-red figures was that they couldn't resist the spiritual power attack of these blood-red figures and couldn't resist the control of their spiritual power. Secondly, they couldn't see where these blood-red figures were, so they couldn't attack them at all. Under the superposition of these two factors, the blood-red figures could only attack them, while they couldn't fight back. However, at this moment, Luo Qingtong used her aura to leave a mark on those blood-red figures. The crowd only needed to attack according to her aura. It was equivalent to the blood-red figures losing their ability to hide completely. In this way, the crowd could deal with them. After all, things that couldn't be seen or touched were the scariest. As for things that could be seen and touched, no matter how ferocious they were just lambs waiting to be slaughtered. As soon as Luo Qingtong did this, everyone was pleasantly surprised. They attacked according to Luo Qingtong's instructions, only to find that the thing that had been marked by Luo Qingtong's aura suddenly burst into a bloody mist under their attacks. The blood immortal jade bones transformation was finally broken. Everyone was shocked and pleasantly surprised. They huddled together and relied on Luo Qingtong to push forward. They attacked the bloody figures that had been marked by Luo Qingtong's aura. Luo Qingtong would deal with those who were carelessly controlled by the bloody figure. The girl brandished the life and death yin-yang sword in her hand. Every time a silvery white sword light flashed, she would reap the transformation of a crimson immortal jade bone. No one knew how Luo Qingtong did it. The crowd needed several people to combine their attacks to barely eliminate the transformation of these crimson immortal jade bones. Chapter 2068. A single person's thoughts were useless against it. Only when everyone worked together would they be able to kill it. Luo Qingtong, on the other hand, could easily kill it with her sword. Not only that, her sword light didn't hurt anyone. It was as if it was specifically targeted at these crimson figures. Everyone vaguely guessed that it was probably because Luo Qingtong found a way to deal with these crimson figures from the treasure map. Everyone was only guessing and didn't dare to confirm it. Only Luo Qingtong and Little Pig understood that this wasn't the effect of the treasure map. It was because the sword light in Luo Qingtong's hand was the sword light of the life blade. The blood immortal jade bone's form was equivalent to a spirit. Its nature was similar to that of a ghost. Luo Qingtong's life blade wasn't a sword for killing. It was a sword that could increase one's strength and replenish one's aura. It carried with it the power of vitality. When she swung her sword, the crimson figure's mental attacks that rushed into the martial artists' minds were instantly cut off. Not only that, but the crimson figures formed by the blood immortal jade bone were also killed by the boundless life force contained in the life blade. After all, life force was also a type of mental power. Under Luo Qingtong's control, it could naturally be transformed into an attack. Bang bang bang. The mental attacks that rushed into the martial artists' bodies were all cut off. And if the crimson figures that rushed into the martial artists' bodies and tried to control them, they were also killed by Luo Qingtong's life blade. Along the way, Luo Qingtong and the others kept moving forward. On the other hand, the beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace's members who were chasing after them were in for a hard time. They didn't have Luo Qingtong's ability to see through the existence of the crimson figures and kill them. After several attacks, they figured out that the crimson figures that were tainted with Luo Qingtong's aura were the ghostly things that controlled the blood-rotting corpses. However, they didn't have anything like Luo Qingtong's life blade, which could kill those bloody figures that invaded and controlled their people. Therefore, even though they were able to kill the blood-colored figures that were tainted with Luo Qingtong's aura, they were still able to do so. However, if he didn't avoid the attacks of these blood-red figures and allowed them to enter his mind and possess him, he would be finished. The people from beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace wanted to kill the bloody figures and the corpses they controlled. At the same time, he had to deal with their attacks and the people around him who were suddenly controlled by these blood-red figures. He was not as relaxed and comfortable as Luo Qingtong and the others when dealing with these bloody figures. The beast-tamer King Guguju and the Celestial Palace Master were indescribably furious, but there was no better way. They could only endure the attacks of the blood-red figures and continue forward. They couldn't let Luo Qingtong and the others take the lead. After all, other people didn't know what was in this Broken Star Valley, but Luo Qingtong did. Moreover, if the other party obtained the fifth beast-taming secret art, the consequences would be unimaginable. Not to mention whether Luo Qingtong's beast-taming gift was fake or not, just based on the enmity between them and the other party. After obtaining the beast-taming secret art, she definitely wouldn't give it to them. Moreover, in order to take revenge on them, Luo Qingtong might even make the beast-taming secret art in her hands public. In that case, their beast-taming King's Valley would be finished. Thinking of this, the people from beast-taming King's Valley couldn't help but shudder in their hearts. They hurriedly rushed forward even more desperately. Chapter 2069. Luo Qingtong and the others had already rushed into the innermost area. In the deepest part of the Shattered Star Valley, there was an extremely deep cave. There was a faint light inside, but they couldn't see clearly what was inside. But what was certain was that the fifth beast-taming art that the people of beast-taming King Valley needed was inside. Let's go in. Luo Qingtong's eyes slightly narrowed and she said to the people around her. After walking all the way here, the people of the various forces were already incomparably convinced by her words. If it weren't for the girl leading them in, they would have already been blocked by the people of beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace. They could only become cannon fodder and be killed by those blood-colored figures. Now that Luo Qingtong told them to rush in, they didn't have any hesitation. Behind them were the people of beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace. The latter and the others were chasing after them at this moment. If they were caught by them, they would be in trouble. They could only rush into the depths of the cave and see what was inside. The people of beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace would do anything to get what was inside. Presumably, it would become the thing they relied on to leave here. Thinking of this, the group hurriedly rushed into the cave. And the people of beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace had already forced their way here. They landed not far behind Luo Qingtong and the others, watching them rush into the cave. In an instant, the veins on beast-taming King Guguju's forehead were about to explode. Quick! Don't care about those blood-colored figures anymore, rush to the front and stop Luo Qingtong. He angrily shouted. And when the higher-ups of beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace heard his words, they suddenly stared blankly. What did beast-taming King Guguju mean by this? At this moment, the people of beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace were fighting those blood-colored figures that were rushing in from all directions. It was already very strenuous. The beast-tamer King Guguju said this. Could it be that he wanted to? Beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace's upper echelons were still thinking about this when they heard beast-taming King Guguju's cold voice. Don't bother with these low-level disciples, let's charge over. The we he was referring to was naturally the higher-ups of beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace. Beast-tamer King Guguju's words clearly indicated that he wanted to give up on the lower-level disciples of Beast-tamer Valley and Celestial Palace, and only bring the higher-level experts of Beast-tamer Valley and Celestial Palace forward. This would increase their speed, but at the same time, the disciples of Celestial Palace and Beast-taming King's Valley would all become cannon fodder. It was already difficult for them to deal with these crimson figures. Now that the group of high-level experts had left, These people who were left behind would all become the sacrificial lambs to attract and restrain the crimson figures. They would die without a doubt. Valley Master. Valley Master, please don't. The disciples of Beast-Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace wailed. The higher-ups of Celestial Palace and Beast-Taming King's Valley were also indescribably bewildered. Abandoning their disciples like this was too difficult a choice to make. After all, these disciples who had followed them to the fallen immortal land were all elites of their sections. They were the cream of the crop. If they abandoned all of them here, the strength of their sects would be greatly damaged after leaving the fallen immortal land in the future. Chapter 2070. They didn't know how long it would take for them to train another batch of elites like this. The entire middle and lower echelons of the sect would be in a state of shortage. While everyone was hesitant, the beast tamer King Guguju spoke again with a ruthless look on his face. If there are no more disciples, we can find and train them again. But if Luo Qingtong gets what's inside today, our beast tamer valley will be finished. And your celestial palace. He turned to the celestial palace master. You have a part in gathering these people here to die. And you have a grudge against Luo Qingtong. Do you think she'll let us go after she gets what's inside? Our beast tamer valley won't be able to get away with it, and so will your celestial palace. Don't forget that she still has the treasure map of the land of the fallen immortals in her hands. If she gets what she wants today, then the treasure map of the land of the fallen immortals might be hers. The stronger she is, the more dangerous it will be for our two sects. It's up to you to decide. The celestial palace master's face turned cold as soon as he heard Guguju's words. In fact, he was already thinking of backing out just now. To him, Celestial Palace was only here to help the Beast Tamer Valley. Now that they couldn't help and there was the risk of being implicated, he naturally didn't want to continue. Not to mention that the Beast Tamer King Guguju wanted him to give up on the disciples of Celestial Palace? How could that be? Celestial Palace didn't need to spare any effort to help the Beast Tamer Valley. Were they willing to destroy the foundation of their sect just for the sake of some benefits that the other party had promised them? He wasn't an idiot. However, the Beast Tamer King Guguju's words reminded him of something. They had a grudge against Luo Qingtong. If Luo Qingtong got what she wanted in the Shattered Star Valley, it would seem that the Beast Tamer Valley would be at a disadvantage, but Celestial Palace would also be in big trouble in the future. It seemed that they had to help the Beast Tamer Valley no matter what. No matter what, Luo Qingtong couldn't get what was inside. What is that thing inside? He couldn't help but ask Guguju. The Beast Tamer Valley's most complete spell. At this point, the Beast Taming King Valley Master could no longer hide the truth. With a gloomy expression, he said to the Celestial Peak Palace Master and the others, "Now you know why our Beast Taming King's Valley must stop her from obtaining the items inside, right? If Luo Qingtong's Luo Qingtong, then Luo Qingtong's S spells Luo Qingtong's as Luo Qingtong? And you people of Celestial Palace may not be able to escape. If Luo Qingtong got the fifth Beast Tamer spell, and she really had the Luo Qingtong's talent, then Beast Tamer Valley's outstanding position in the hidden world would be completely destroyed. And the people of Celestial Palace, who had a grudge against her, wouldn't be able to get any benefits. Not to mention that Luo Qingtong still had the treasure map of the land of the fallen immortals. If she had the chance to get her hands on the treasures inside, then their two families would be done for. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.